Hello there, good morning to you on this Tuesday morning. Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary, has encouraged Chinese investment in critical infrastructure.
Yes, as the government scrambles to save Scunthorpe Steel, a fresh spotlight is being cast on Beijing's involvement in the UK economy.
I'm here to very, very clearly say to you that the United Kingdom stands committed to deepen and strengthen our partnership.
The question now is, will Beijing retaliate and threaten British jobs?
And the Birmingham BIM crisis could be coming to a street near you. The Unite Union snubs Angela Rayner's pay offer as they warn there could be similar bin strikes across the country.
Pharmacies are folding. Is yours? 5 were lost a week last year just in England as a lack of funding has left them fighting to survive.
I find it a very spiritual and very intense, emotional reconnection, I suppose, these environments.
And the Princess of Wales celebrates her connection to nature on a trip to the Lake District with the Scouts. She hailed the balance and peace of the great outdoors.
Don't know if any other pop stars have been to space, but I just wanted to honor my fellow astronauts and just, hold the space in space.
A giant leap for womankind as star-studded all-female crew return from a brief jaunt in space. We're asking, should the super-rich be going to space in the first place?
And in the sport, Bournemouth beat Fulham with a goal after 52 seconds. Aston Villa need to overturn a 2-goal deficit at Villa Park tonight as they play Paris Saint-Germain at the Champions League quarter-final second leg. And snooker history was made in the World Championship qualifiers yesterday, earning a player £147,000.
Hello there, good morning. A wet day ahead, particularly across parts of England and Wales, and a risk of some heavy showers, which may bring some hail and thunder. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
Hello there, good to see you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Miriam Cates and you're watching GB News Breakfast.
So here we are, second day of your stint. It's like space travel we're talking about. We're talking about those women going up into space. You go up into
I came here in a
ethers of
taxi, not a
breakfast
rocket.
Television. How are you doing day 2?
Well, I'm a bit tired, but it's kind of, you get through that first half an hour and then you kind of wake up, so
well, that's
good.
That's the question. What do you think of all these women going up into space?
Well, I have no objection at all to people going to space, and obviously the rocket, everything, it was absolutely incredible, especially watching it land vertically is amazing. But the idea that this is some sort of feminist victory, I mean, this is 6 rich and beautiful women in very tight costumes being paid to go up into space by one of the richest men in the world. It's, let's call it what it is. It's not a victory for women, but, it's interesting tourist engagement.
Well, I don't know. My whole point is, Paul, I look at this and I think, what is the point? Why would you want to go up into the sky, up into the blackness, turn around and fall down again?
Well, you look out there's 2 things. You can be weightless for a little while, so do a little
minutes.
spinny somersaulty in the air.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I've got my drinks flying everywhere. And look down and go, well, yeah, and that's really beautiful. That's it. But that's what it is, though, isn't it? It's just a jaunt. It's not a scientific experiment or anything. It's just let's go up and have a look and have a bit of fun.
It was the kind of hysteria as well. They had this all-female viewing platform and Oprah Winfrey saying that this is the pinnacle of self-expression and things like that. And
it's not, is it?
Let's celebrate the engineering and the amazing feat of science that is this reusable rocket, which would have been, unthinkable half a century ago. But I don't know, to see it as some sort of women's rights.
See, I look at this. Everybody shouts about the environment and saving the environment and the planet and all this sort of thing, and yet we send these big rockets up, firing all these engines. Up, for what?
How many trees did they have to plant for that one?
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. If you've got a view on it, or maybe you want to go. I do want to go, but as I say, it has to be the Starship Enterprise.
Is that what it is? So you want big space? I mean, in the space rocket, you don't want to be...
I want to sit in one of those big captain's chairs there and just, say, Mr. Coit, work factor 2.
Yeah.
And you do it.
Like that, and then do that.
No, you missed the point. You say, yes, Captain.
Oh, sorry, yes, I beg your pardon, Captain.
Yeah.
Well, this
one
was
already.
entirely remote-controlled. The idea, they called them a crew, but they weren't. They're passengers.
Yeah.
It was entirely remote-controlled from land. They just sat there and were strapped in.
I still wouldn't have done it. People say,
I wouldn't. It's too risky.
Yeah, too risky. I agree with you. go up there with your mates and whatever. Just say it just went wrong.
It was. It's a glorified jolly, though, isn't it? That's what it is.
I know, and it must be an amazing experience, be weightless to look down on the Earth, absolutely. And so many scientific advances have been made through space technology. So I don't begrudge them that, but it was that the presentation of it was slightly off-putting.
OK. Guy, see you later on, Paul. See you in about 20 minutes' time. We're going to start leading the news today, British Steel. And where are we at with that? Well, the hope is that as the government confirms they have secured the materials needed to keep the blast furnaces running for the next few weeks.
We've got the raw materials, they've been paid for, and we're confident that the furnaces will continue to fire. We've taken the action we've taken over the weekend. It was important that we did that. We secured the site. We've got a new CEO and management team here, and we're confident that they'll be able to continue into the future.
Meanwhile, it's being reported that the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, encouraged Chinese investment in critical infrastructure just weeks before the government had to step in and take control of the Beijing-owned steel plant.
Well, in a separate twist, Unite, the union, is apparently considering a series of nationwide bin strikes should there be further pay disputes similar to the ones seen in Birmingham. Let's talk about all of this. Deputy Editor of Spiked Online, Fraser Myers. Good morning to you, Fraser.
Good morning.
You know, there's a big kel hurrah about bin workers and, you know, whether the strike should spread or not. I fail to see what everybody's getting worked up about. I mean, these people do a fair day's work. Why not for a fair day's pay?
I think that's right. And there's a reason why 97% of those who answered the ballot rejected the pay offer, because it's simply not good enough. These are
also critical. Knocking £1,000 off drivers to pay for it. Drivers were being docked wages.
Well, and the great irony of this strike really stems from a decision in the courts over equal pay, because there was a dispute over the fact that people like teaching assistants, dinner ladies, various other sort of female-dominated roles were being paid less than many less glamorous sort of male-dominated roles like bin men and refuse workers. That ended up bankrupting Birmingham. They owed over £1 billion in back pay claims, and this is where a lot of the pay cuts are stemming from. So there's a kind of brutal irony there. It was an attempt to equalise pay that has led to everyone being underpaid.
I totally would be in favour of equalising pay. Absolutely no issue with that. But is being a teaching assistant the same as going up a back alley and emptying all these bins and throwing mattresses in the back of bin lorries and things?
Well, clearly there are some roles like being a bin man that are, that have unsocial hours, that carry, unfortunately, still a certain social stigma around them, and people need, and it's unsanitary, and people need, people should be paid extra to either because we think they deserve it, or just to get them to do it, because, why would you do that? If all jobs had the same pay, why would you do something more difficult or less glamorous?
And we recently saw a similar case, actually, with Next retailer, where the courts found against them in a claim from their retail staff, so their shop assistants, claiming that they should get the same pay as the warehouse assistants who work in the cold. It's a lot more physically strenuous job. But nevertheless, the retail assistants won. And do you think this is part of this kind of idea that we can somehow have equality of outcome for everybody, and that the market doesn't matter? It doesn't matter how much you should be paid to attract somebody. Everybody needs to be the same.
Well, I think what's dangerous is the interference or the over-interference of the courts in this, because clearly, if you're a judge deciding on an equal pay claim, you get to sort of virtue signal and say you're in favour of equality, but you're not accountable for the financial decisions. So whether you're talking about Birmingham City Council, you don't have to balance that with other aspects of the budget, or if you're running Next, you don't have to worry about the fact that people simply won't work in the warehouse if it's not paid more. And even during that case, many of the retail workers would say, no, I don't want to work in the warehouse. It's a different job. They would admit that. There were actually, I think, nearly 50% of the warehouse workers were female, as it happens, but they decided because it's a male-coded job, therefore that was what was behind the need, the sexist pay regime of the company. And, there's a similar case happening to Asda. Sainsbury's is being taken to the court. So this actually, coming down the line, if we see similar decisions like this, and it seems likely, then a lot of companies are going to have to be making hundreds of £1 billion worth of payouts. Now, look, no one's going to share too many tears for, the board of Asda or whatever, but, you know, that's going to have a serious effect on the economy.
They will just use robots instead of people.
Potentially. And other local councils might go broke. And, you know, in Birmingham, what does that mean? It doesn't just mean your bins aren't collected. Council taxes had to go up 17.5% for this. Services have been cut by £150 million. Again, so we start with something that has a good intention that actually we would all agree with, and you end up with a disaster. And so someone needs to step in and say, this isn't working, we need reform.
But how are we going to do that if the courts have ruled against what you're just proposing there? How do you go in there and say, right, we need to equalise these pay, we haven't got the money to do it, so how are they going to solve this bin strike?
I think you're going to have to, you know, the longer run, you're going to have to amend the Equality Act to say, let's absolutely have equal pay for the equal work.
The Equality Act.
The government and Parliament. But you have to say we absolutely want equal pay for the same jobs, but we can't equalise pay across all roles. It's just simply not working.
It's not just the Equality Act either. I mean, a lot of this is EU case law that sadly we are still subject to. But anyway, let's move on to steel, because it's been a dramatic week for the steel industry, and it now transpires that Ed Miliband in particular was looking to get even closer to the Chinese in the run-up to the discovery that it looks like the Chinese were trying to close down the blast furnace at Scunthorpe. Do you think the government will now be a little bit more hawkish on China?
Well, it would be a big turnaround. I mean, this government has been courting China. It sees China as integral to its growth strategy. Ed Miliband sees China, I mean, rightly in his own weird way, totally essential to meeting his net zero targets. China is going to be one of the most important providers of wind turbines, solar panels, electric vehicles. This government, uniquely among the West, has not put tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. And it was interesting, you know, Ed Miliband signed this memorandum of understanding, and obviously, you know, China gets to have all this. We're buying lots of their products. They're going to put, you know, they're going to build factories in the UK. One thing Ed Miliband offered in return was his expertise in transitioning away from coal, which is not something that China is interested in doing or planning on doing anytime soon. They're building, you know, hundreds of coal plants. Every year, they're transitioning away from net zero. In fact, the reason that, you know, they're able to produce wind turbines and solar panels so cheaply is because they are not doing the net zero transition.
And because they're using people who are either paid very, very low wages or may even be slaves. So let's be honest about this. The hypocrisy in the agenda here is phenomenal.
But also, we're not hearing, and why are we not hearing, going back to your former party, David Cameron, who got us into this situation in the first place, Boris Johnson, who signed us away to the Chinese. I want to hear from Boris Johnson. Why did you think that was such a good idea, and why did you complete that deal on your watch?
Yeah, and, you know, Jingye, the Chinese company, probably was the only willing buyer of British steel, but you have to ask, how did we allow the company to get into that situation in the first place? They say that it's losing £700,000 a day. Now, you know, that's an extraordinary loss leader. You have to ask, well, what were their interests in this company that loses money? That automatically should have raised questions. So we really should have gone down, I think, this path of nationalisation a lot earlier. But then again, there are all kinds of other problems with the steel industry that are caused by the current government and the last government's policies. So if you look at the cost of energy, which is 50% higher for industry than much of the developed world, that is a huge problem. The fact that, you know, we don't have any domestic coal industry. Ed Miliband was proud to have blocked the opening of a coal mine in Cumbria, which, you know, maybe that could have been supplying the blast furnace that was about to go out. Instead, we have to import things from the US, from Australia. There was even talk of using the Royal Navy to secure these really important coal shipments when, you know, we could have done these things, we could be doing these things domestically. So I guess the question we need to ask is not, you know, well, we should ask about China's involvement, but it's like, how did we get to the stage where we're looking, you know, passing the begging bowl to the Chinese to bail us out?
Let's be proud of this. Let's make electro blast furnaces. Let's we can be recycling. We don't have to make all this from scratch. We can throw all the stuff that we ship around the world to be recycled. We can be doing that on our own patch. There's lots of things going to change about this. Fraser's going to be back. Your views to him, very, very welcome. Fraser, for the moment, you very much indeed. And the poll of the day is China trying to sabotage Britain's steel industry?
Yes, well, you can enter using a QR code and we'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day to make sure you stay tuned. And for all our latest polls, news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, the Princess of Wales is in the news today and she's joined the Chief Scout of the country in a video posted by Kensington Palace on how her spiritual connection with nature gives her peace in a busy world.
Yes, it was filmed near the shores of Lake Windermere with a Scouts group last month and the video was released overnight.
I find it a very spiritual and very intense, emotional reconnection, I suppose, these environments. Not everyone has that same relationship, perhaps, with nature, but it is so, therefore, meaningful for me as a place to balance and find a sort of sense of peace and reconnection in what is otherwise a very busy world.
Well, Jack Stooks is a former senior gardener to King Charles at Highgrove, and there we hear, and we've heard before, Jack, about the connection the Royals and Charles in particular has with trees and hugging trees and nature and all that sort of thing. So this is a well-formed connection, isn't it?
It is, it's lovely to see her back out and back in action, you know, rooting for the Scouts that we've seen in that short clip. But it's not just a clip. We do see she does a lot of work with the Scouts and trying to encourage children into nature. And I think we heard her briefly say, you know, not everybody has that. And this is true. You know, we've got people in urban spaces that might not necessarily have gardens and spaces to go and be in and have that reflection. So with her, you know, she does this with her children. She's very much a country person when it comes to her garden. We see a lot of photos with her family in garden areas. Up in Scotland, we see them walking, and she's pretty much saying exactly what she's doing, and that's what's amazing to see in this clip that we've had just brought out by Kensington Palace last night.
She also is an amazing role model for parents, and she does so much for children in particular. So far, she's been working mostly with preschoolers, but do you think this is a new venture for her as her children get older, that she's also working with older children?
I think she's been involved with the Scouts for quite some time, and she loves children. She loves helping mental health charities. So this is encompassing the two. You know, she's bringing in children and sort of young adults, I suppose, and also mental health awareness and bringing children out into countryside spaces where they can sort of forget all of the stresses and strains that they have going on within a small space.
Well, Jack, thank you very much indeed for shedding that bit of light into the royal connection with nature. Thank you very much. We'll leave it there.
Well, let's have a look at some of the other stories.
Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry, am I rushing you?
You're too panicky. Are you a tree hugger? Or how are you with nature?
I love nature. I mean, I'm from just next to the Peak District, and I love that scene. I'm not green-fingered. I can't grow anything, but I appreciate the environment.
Yes, you can appreciate the environment. I agree that. I think a lot of people are reading into what the Princess is saying here about maybe that it's the panacea for all ills, nature. I don't agree it is. I think it makes you feel good. And that's all. I don't think there's any other evidence to say that it does more than that.
I think being outside and having a longer view, you know, seeing to the horizon, seeing to the distance, does make a difference to your state of mind. If you're in a room all day, especially with no windows, I think, you know, your thoughts are much smaller, aren't they? When you go outside and you're aware of how big the world is, I think it does make a difference. But yeah, I agree, it's not going to cure everything to go and sit on the top of a grassy hill.
That's a good way of putting it. Your thoughts are much smaller if you're stuck inside a room all
And of course,
day.
a lot of children are now stuck inside a room, and even their gaze is here. And so just to be outside is
vitamin D, so you go outside and you get, no matter what the sun's doing, really, if you're outside, you get vitamin D. I went to the doctors once to get a few measurements, and they took my vitamin D, and he says, well, your vitamin D's 5. And I went, right, is that good? Or what's
Who
that?
knows?
He says, it should be 872.
Oh my goodness.
So I basically had no vitamin D, right? And I can see why that happens during the day.
I think they recommend to people who move to this country from hotter places, they recommend that you just take vitamin D all the time.
Yeah,
because you'd be
supplements.
so deprived of it in this country otherwise.
And that affects your mood and it affects all sorts of things.
Exactly. When the sun comes out every spring, we kind of breathe a sigh of relief, don't we?
The sun has got its hat on. Hip, 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 hooray.
Behind us.
Hope it does. Anyway, here's the other story.
Are we allowed to move on now?
Yes, we'll move on
jolly
now. You're waking up to this Tuesday.
I'm getting there. UK retailers got a spring lift in March with sales up 1.1% year-on-year, according to the British Retail Consortium. Warm weather, we're enjoying it, and Mother's Day spending drove demand for gardening gear, DIY tools, jewellery and beauty products.
And getting out in the sunshine.
Absolutely.
Game changer for heart attack patients. A new study from Imperial College says combining statins with something else early could prevent thousands of heart attacks. Analysis of 36,000 patients found those treated within 12 weeks of a heart attack had better outcomes, cutting risks of new events and death. Experts estimate 5,000 heart attacks could be avoided over a decade in Britain, yet outdated guidelines and cautionary delay its use, leaving patients at risk.
And finally, Katy Perry says she plans to write a song about her space mission. The pop star's Blue Origin rocket blasted off from West Texas on its first ever all-female mission. The singer joined 5 other women, including a former NASA scientist and civil rights activist, for the 11-minute suborbital flight. A short time later, the capsule landed back in the Texas desert by parachute.
Could you have, does it make you tingle and think, I wish I was one of those women?
I mean, I'd love to experience that, but I'm not sure on the risk-reward ratio. I'm happy to get on an EasyJet flight to go on holiday. I think that's kind of worth the risk, but we've seen too many of them blow up, haven't we? Just in the last 20 or 30 years.
Get your point. Let's get out and about and see what the weather's going to be like. Honor Chiswick with that.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead with heavy outbreaks of rain in the west with a Met Office weather warning in force. Elsewhere a bit brighter but some showers which could have some hail and thunder. Now it's going to be quite a wet start across parts of northeast England, parts of East Anglia, also across Wales and parts of the southwest. Some quite heavy downpours at times, and we do have a rain warning issued for parts of Wales and the southwest. A chance we could see some travel disruption and some flooding in these areas. And across central areas, parts of the southeast, some brighter spells but also some showers with a risk of hail and thunder, and a little bit drier across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, but can't rule out the odd shower or two. Now, to finish off the day, the rain across the west is set to linger, particularly across Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall. Once again, some heavy outbreaks of time at times, particularly across rush hour. So do keep an eye on our website for any warning details. A largely dry end to the day across Northern Ireland, but we're set to see some rain move in here as we head through the overnight period. Quite a wet end to the day across eastern parts of Scotland, but across the northwest, probably seeing the best of the brightness. But here, once again, can't even rule out a risk of a shower too. And as we head through into the overnight period, it's set to remain fairly unsettled. Some heavy and possibly thundery outbreaks of rain. Once again, that rain persisting across parts of Wales and the southwest, and eventually moving into northern England and southern parts of Scotland through the course of the night. But with all the cloud and the rain, that means things aren't set to be too chilly. So it's going to be a fairly mild night for many, perhaps a chance of some rural frost across the very far west of Ireland and northwest Scotland. Wednesday, once again, an unsettled day. Outbreaks of rain slowly shifting their way northwards into Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, still lingering for a time across Wales too. May even bring some snow across the Pennines and across the Scottish uplands. But across the south, a brighter day, but a chance of some showers skirting into the southwest later on into the afternoon, and feeling cooler for all, with highs around 15 degrees Celsius.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
No, nothing to do with you, but we have been nominated for a Trick Award, the breakfast show. You can't take any of the credits for this. No, but I'll take whatever credit's going along with those other three people there on the screen. So, best news programme, that's GB News Breakfast. No, that's the good news. The bad news is we need to get on a short list. So, we're on a long list, which is good, but if you scan that code on screen there and then say, I like that GB News Breakfast, then we could maybe get on the shortlist, and it would be good. It's really good for all the morale of people in here who work so very hard towards that. And no one works harder than Charlie Peters, our reporter, who's been nominated for Best News Presenter on his work uncovering, exposing and condemning the grooming gangs that exist around this country, and highlighting these people, this word and this term, grooming gangs. These men are rapists, and they deserve to be put away, they deserve to be exposed, and Charlie Peters needs to be commended, we would all say here, for his work there. We would rather he picked up an award by scanning that code than us here on The Breakfast Show. So please help us out on that.
Yes, do go and get your votes in. Well, it's now time for our Great British Giveaway. It's our biggest prize to date, and your chance to enjoy as many getaways as you can in your very own motorhome. I think it's worth £67,000. And
you get another 5,000 quid on top of that. Have a go.
You could be spending your summer in style on the road in this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. It sleeps 4, comes with integrated kitchen and bathroom spaces, and comfortably has space for all the family. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. It's our biggest prize package ever, and it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. And with that, we will take a break. After that, a crisis at our local chemists. Find out why next.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 6:30 a.m. on Tuesday. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Eamonn Holmes and Miriam Cates.
As Christians observe Holy Week, we're bringing you daily reflections, and we're doing that from ministers around the whole country.
And here's today's message from Reverend Brenda.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hi, I'm Reverend Brenda, Vicar of St Francis Anglican Church in Ingleby Barwick Teesside. In Lent, Christians think more about Jesus. Jesus says we are called to take up our cross and follow him. This doesn't mean that we are to bear with things harmful in our lives like an abusive relationship or staying in a job that is really not healthy. But when Jesus says, take up your cross and follow me, he is saying to the Christian, let me lead your life, surrender your plan and follow mine. Jesus called his first disciples away from lives as fishermen into a life fishing for people. A person might feel called into ministry or called to set up a community cafe. When feeling called, it is about surrendering our way and trusting that Jesus knows better than us the plan for our life. Remember though, calls need testing because the enemy calls too. We might speak to a Christian priest to check out a sense of call. Jesus promises life in all its fullness when we take up our cross and follow him. Amen.
There's today's reflection.
Well, earlier this month, thousands of pharmacies called off protests after the government agreed to a new funding package worth £3.1 billion.
Now, but concerns for the future of the sector are far from over. An analysis showing 78% of chemists in England are not sustainable. Our reporter, who is it, Anna Riley, has this one.
A sector in crisis. 5 pharmacies folded every week last year in England. The price of some medicines and the amount pharmacists are reimbursed means many struggle to survive. To fill the funding gap, the government recently pledged £3.1 billion. It's a step in the right direction for Ashley Cohen. He's on the National Pharmacy Association board and runs community pharmacies in Yorkshire.
The amount is welcome, but it doesn't address the chasm and the massive gap between what is actually needed for pharmacy contractors. We have now 3/4 of pharmacy contractors that are struggling to make a profit. It's criminal that we are actually subsidising the drugs budget ourselves. There are increasing national living wage, increasing national insurance contributions and business rates, and my fear is that the money that has been given will just be already ring-fenced for those priorities and challenges that are facing us, so it's not going to plug the gap at all at the moment.
It comes as pharmacies face a financial cliff edge this month, with bills skyrocketing in what has been dubbed Awful April.
I've had to borrow some money to get through the last financial year. Across my small regional group, I've had to borrow circa £125,000 just to keep the lights on, just to keep the doors open and just to keep the investment in our staff. I'm just looking for a time where I have less financial anxiety and can actually plan for the future without the worrying impact of, can I pay my wholesalers' bills and can I pay for the rent and rates of our premises?
Without community pharmacies like this one in Leeds, patients may find it hard to access care.
It means a lot because I can have my injections here, and I've got asthma, so I get checked up here as well, you know, so it's very, very convenient for me. I live on my own, so I haven't really got many people around me to help, so it is quite difficult.
There's an awful lot more people go, and you can see they've had to get more storage, you know, so they're under pressure without a doubt, yeah.
Very vital for me.
In what sense?
Convenient. It's easy and you're not queuing.
While consultation on the new government deal continues, the National Pharmacy Association has agreed to keep pharmacy doors open for now. Anna Riley, GB News.
Let's give you the travel update with the time now at 25 to 7.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M6 in Cheshire, 2 out of 3 lanes closed southbound at junction 20A for the M56, where a van's overturned. It's slow towards and past there. On the M1 in Bedfordshire, the inside lanes closed southbound after an accident between junctions 11A and 11 near Dunstable. In Essex on the A13, there's a lane closed westbound after an accident between Orsett and the Baker Street interchange at Tilbury, causing queues. In Surrey, the A322 is closed northbound from the A30 to the Swinley Road roundabout at Bagshot for repairs after a van caught fire. And in Wiltshire, the A303 is closed each way at Mere after an accident.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Well, still to come, Paul Coit will be here with all the sport. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Miriam.
Morning.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Mr. Paul has your sport, and you better be as quick as Bournemouth against Fulham last night.
53 seconds, that's not bad going, is it?
Very good.
So you've got to defend, though, for 89 minutes and 7 seconds. Antoine Semenyo scored. You know, there was an interesting thing that happened, though. Marco Silva was absolutely livid during the game because, you know, when they hold up the substitution, they hold up the board, there were 3 substitutions made, and one of the substitutions, I don't know whether he changed his mind at the last minute, but as one was held up for Ryan Sessegnon to come off, he then tried to correct it, and then the 4th official went, no, too late, can't do that. So he, as he was about to walk off, he didn't want Sessegnon to walk off. So then he was absolutely livid about the whole thing. He said we had enough time to correct it, but he decided not to let us correct it. The 4th official was confused throughout the game in all circumstances. Which is a bit strong, isn't it? I always think the 4th official's the fall guy for everything. Whenever there's any problem, the 4th official's standing there, nothing to do with me, and they'll scream in his ear.
Well, look, I agree. I sort of think we're going to make a substitute. Coates coming off, and we're putting Coates on here.
Yeah.
And you go, no, we're not. Change my mind.
Yeah.
Keep Coit on.
Yeah.
What is the issue?
I think it's probably because, you know, they have these boards and then they have to put the number in.
You'd already pressed the button.
He probably didn't know how to then take the... No, sorry. No, you've already made your decision.
Computer says no.
I know, that's it. No, you can't change it. You've already made your decision. But anyway, they lost anyway, so... Anyway,
later on tonight, you've got Villa playing in the Champions League, and we're going to be covering that. We're going to be building that up.
Yes, we do. We have an ex-player, and also we've got from Paris, L'Equipe, which is the French sports publication, a man called Eric Bieldemont. Eric he's a PSG fan, and he's fantastic. So he's going to join us to tell us why he thinks PSG will win the Champions League. Do you hear about the agents thing?
Chelsea, top of the list with, I can't remember how much they've spent, something like £60 million
It's incredible. Agents are used, obviously, these days for everybody, whether it comes to players or managers. The deals are always done through an agent, and they have to be licensed agents, and there's been problems with agents before saying so much money goes to them. But when you see the amount that is spent in football to agents, I mean, it just makes your toes curl. I mean, the FA released the amount of money that clubs spent on agents. So you're right, Chelsea, £60.4 million.
Just on agents.
Just for agents.
Now, snooker player Jackson Page, I think this is good, to get a 147 maximum break, but he didn't just do it once. Twice.
In the same game.
In the same game, in one match.
In the same game. So he's 23 years old, qualifying for the World Championship, never... 147 in a major tournament, never done that before. So then does it once, so he clears the table, and then there he is. And then, so this was on Sunday, and in the same match, and they continued on Monday, does it again, twice. I mean, it's
like an exhibition he's playing there.
It really is. And so he gets a bonus of £147,000.
Why didn't he get 2 bonuses? Why didn't he get 2 bonuses?
You know what? It would have been worked out. It would have been the right thing to do.
Quick question we want to place with you, and we want you to come back to us when Paul comes back in an hour's time, and that is, should Rory McIlroy be given a knighthood after becoming the first European to win a Grand Slam, all 4 titles?
Without doubt.
Right.
No doubt about it, should be knighted. Absolutely no question.
They give Andy Murray a knighthood, and he was still a player, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was still a player. Most they give it to, but absolutely should be knighted, and I think he will be as well.
Whereas, you know, we get this thing where, you know, Gareth Southgate, whatever, gets one for what? What did he win?
Well, he got to the final.
Tough job, though. Tough job, isn't it? I mean,
I know.
Getting to the final's not bad.
To change history the way McIlroy's done, we reckon...
Maybe you should go to the House of Lords then.
That's what I'm looking for the next thing up from a knighthood.
Nailed on. Right, we're going to be back after the break. We've got the papers. We've got Andy Williams, Lauren McKevitt, for those right after. There they are there. Good morning. With them right after the break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're hoping to get away for the rest of the Easter holidays, I'm afraid it's rather unsettled across the central Mediterranean. Heavy showers, thunderstorms and also some strong winds. Largely dry across Madeira and the rest of the Canary Islands, though, particularly after all the heavy rain recently. But as we shift our way eastwards, heavy showers affecting much of the central Mediterranean. These could have hail and also some thunder and some strong winds associated with them too. Largely dry across Greece, and it's turning largely dry for all as we head into Saturday, with temperatures widely in the mid to high teens to low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Interesting research here, because on the one hand, it looks as though awareness of ADHD and the symptoms is rising because of TikTok and influencers promoting the symptoms of TikTok. But there's also research that suggests that usage of TikTok itself can cause ADHD. So how do we kind of untangle this?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? It's a double whammy, really, because I think, as you say, on the one hand, you've got this almost like social contagion of increased awareness of symptoms that either are ADHD or, as you have pinpointed, mimic ADHD. And we know that increased and excessive screen time, you know, not just TikTok actually, but all social media time, mimics ADHD. You know, anyone that has a child and has witnessed their own child spending, you know, obsessive time scrolling through social media or gaming and seeing what that does to a child, particularly, I think, young children's attention.
Yeah, my best friend, she was telling me, oh, yeah, I've known her since she was 4 years old. And she was chatting to me the other day and she goes, you know what? I've got ADHD. That's, well, if you've got it, I've got it. It's ridiculous. There are so many people saying they've got it. It's getting to epidemic proportions. Isn't it a bit ridiculous, all these people claim they've got it? What is it? What is it?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I completely agree. I think it is absolutely ridiculous. And I agree. I'm being tongue-in-cheek about TikTok. I do. My personal view is that TikTok is uniquely awful. I think it is absolutely mindless. Does anyone ever feel good after scrolling on TikTok? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there will be some people. So, you know, I do accept these platforms are different for different people. I do think, though, we have to really ask, you know, why is there this apparent explosion of ADHD and this rush for everyone to diagnose themselves?
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back, and joining us to go through what's making the news today, we have former Conservative advisor Lauren McIlroy and political commentator Andy Williams. Welcome to you both.
Morning.
We've just been talking in the break about this story in the Daily Telegraph, a Stop Brexit man. Anyone who's been anywhere near Westminster in the last few years will know about Steve Bray, who wears an interesting outfit and constantly plays very loud anti-Brexit, anti-Tory music, but apparently this is lawful, Lauren.
It is, and I think you and I slightly disagree on whether or not he should have the right to do this, largely because my own personal view is this is so irritating that I'd like it to be stopped, please. He's interrupted every interview that I've ever given on College Green. I'm sure he's done the same for you. It can be, I think, incredibly intimidating, particularly if you're a woman walking around in Westminster, and particularly, I think in your case, if you are a known individual,
and
he's shouting at you. I think that can be incredibly intimidating. But it turns out he is allowed to do it, which is, I suppose, good news for him and bad news for us and every sound producer for every news channel in the known universe. But he's allowed to do it.
I'm just amazed at how determined he is. Yeah. I mean, it's nearly 9 years since the referendum.
I'm amazed at how well financed he is.
Well, yeah, and I don't like to go down the sort of who funds you route, but I do.
Genuinely, who funds you?
Well, I would be interested to know. But 9 years he's been doing this full time. Yeah. Every day.
Yeah. You think that makes him normal then?
I don't think it makes him normal at all.
Right. So, unless he's on some huge salary, somebody's paying for him.
Well, they are, and I don't know. I genuinely don't know if we know who is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There are rumours about who's funding him, but none of them I think have ever been stood up.
It is an interesting free speech question because he is unbelievably irritating and sometimes I do think bordering on harassment. But of course he should have the right to say whatever he wants. But I suppose the question is Westminster so important from a democracy point of view, from a tourism point of view? We were talking in the break how a lot of MP staff can't even work in their offices.
Well, we can't work. As reporters, we can't work down there.
And there's a democracy element to that, which is people who are reporting the news
can't.
And are literally are providing their national broadcasting obligations towards the news, cannot, from the location where most parliamentarians are based, report the news to viewers at home in a way that can be understood by them. So I wonder if if there should have been a middle ground here where they said you can do it, but there's no microphones.
Yes, or you move him on and ban him from a particular area.
Yeah, so you can do it, but you can
outside Paddington Station.
You can do it, but you can in no way enhance the sound.
Yes,
it can only be your own voice and the microphone on a phone or something.
Yeah.
That maybe there should have been a middle ground here, because I think the number of people who wander around Westminster who are tourists this is a form of protest, sure, but it's I think for him now it's a career, and it's a career that's interrupting the careers of others, and so there is a different consideration there. So I think
I've given him my opinions a few times. So whether he knows who I am or not, I certainly am quite proud that I've gone to his face and told him what I thought of him. I would. If it's his right to do that, it's my right.
Absolutely,
to exactly
to counter-protest. I think so. I think all the protests I've been on in my life, which number the 3 Countryside Alliance ones, they've all had counter-protest where some guy was dressed up as a fox, and your right to yell at them and their right to yell at you is protected. But this does go both ways,
isn't it?
Yeah. Right. Should we be yelling, Andy, at the Chinese? Basically, what is going on here? What happened? Cameron led us down this road. Boris Johnson signs this deal. David Miliband, Ed Miliband, was out there in March pleading with them about how we can get on and how we can do green things with steel and all sorts of things. What a mess this is.
Well, why are we so repeatedly naive as a country? For years and years, it was all, Vladimir Putin, he's a guy we can deal with and maybe we can trust him, maybe he's not that bad, let's just keep him at arm's length. Same with China. I'm not saying they're exactly the same, they're slightly different questions, but we can see now China are really flexing their muscles. I think they've been totally emboldened by the way Trump has behaved in the last few weeks. They have called his bluff big time and shown this tariff stuff to be a load of nonsense because it's collapsed the moment China stands up to Trump. Actually, it doesn't look so smart. And now they're saying, well, you need to avoid politicising trade cooperation, Britain, because otherwise we're going to start pulling investment. It's a really difficult tightrope to walk because we can't fully walk away from China. They're too powerful. They're too rich.
Well, and they've been
the
too willing.
grown.
They've been too willing to take on the things that we in this country have found distasteful to do in the last 40 years, which is coal mining, which is steel production. The government in the UK, and it's all governments of all colours in the last 40 years, has basically moved the United Kingdom towards a service provision economy because the environmental ramifications of pulling coal out of the ground and of making steel in this country have been unpopular for people like Ed Miliband.
But Lauren, surely the theory is that they only took on steel production to close it down, to give themselves more power.
Well, I don't. At this point, I don't think it matters whether or not they did. We still only had one plant left doing virgin steel in the United Kingdom. This Labour, we saved British steel thing. No, they haven't. They saved English steel. Welsh steel got flushed down the S-bend last year, and was something that my party in government failed on multiple times over the course of 20 years, over the course of 15 years. Labour failed on. China took on a role of being willing to do coal production and steel production in a way that they didn't care about the environment, and this is
that's Lauren's view. Give us your view. Lauren and Andy will be back in 40 minutes' time. Here's your weather update.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead with heavy outbreaks of rain in the west with a Met Office weather warning in force. Elsewhere a bit brighter but some showers which could have some hail and thunder. Now it's going to be quite a wet start across parts of North East England, parts of East Anglia, also across Wales and parts of the southwest. Some quite heavy downpours at times, and we do have a rain warning issued for parts of Wales and the southwest. A chance we could see some travel disruption and some flooding in these areas. And across central areas, parts of the southeast, some brighter spells but also some showers with a risk of hail and thunder, and a little bit drier across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, but can't rule out the odd shower or two. Now, to finish off the day, the rain across the west is set to linger, particularly across Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall. Once again, some heavy outbreaks of time at times, particularly across rush hour. So do keep an eye on our website for any warning details. A largely dry end to the day across Northern Ireland, but we're set to see some rain move in here as we head through the overnight period. Quite a wet end to the day across eastern parts of Scotland, but across the northwest, probably seeing the best of the brightness. But here, once again, can't even rule out a risk of a shower too. And as we head through into the overnight period, it's set to remain fairly unsettled, some heavy and possibly thundery outbreaks of rain. Once again, that rain persisting across parts of Wales and the southwest and eventually moving into northern England and southern parts of Scotland through the course of the night. But with all the cloud and the rain, that means things aren't set to be too chilly. So it's going to be a fairly mild night for many, perhaps a chance of some rural frost across the very far west of Ireland and northwest Scotland. Wednesday, once again, an unsettled day. Outbreaks of rain slowly shifting their way northwards into Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, still lingering for a time across Wales too. May even bring some snow across the Pennines and across the Scottish uplands. But across the south, a brighter day, but a chance of some showers skirting into the southwest later on into the afternoon, and feeling cooler for all, with highs around 15 degrees Celsius.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 in Bedfordshire, the inside lanes closed southbound after an accident between junctions 11A and 11 from the A5 to the A505 near Dunstable. Delays are almost back to junction 12, the Toddington and Flitwick turn. In Essex on the A13, there's a lane closed westbound after an accident between Orsett and the Baker Street interchange at Tilbury, causing queues. In Surrey, the A322 is closed northbound from the A30 to the Swinley Road roundabout at Bagshot for repairs after a van caught fire. And in Wiltshire, the A303 is closed each way at Mere after an accident late last night.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock, and Ed Miliband encouraged Chinese investment in key critical infrastructure.
Well, as the government scrambles to save Scunthorpe Steel, a fresh spotlight is cast on Beijing involvement in the UK economy.
I'm here to very, very clearly say to you that the United Kingdom stands committed to deepen and strengthen our partnership.
But will China now retaliate and threaten British jobs?
The Birmingham bin crisis could be coming to a street near you, it appears. The Unite Union has snubbed Angela Rayner's pay offer as they warn there could be similar bin strikes right across the country.
And pharmacies are folding. 5 were lost each week last year in England as a lack of funding has left them fighting to survive.
In a very spiritual and very intense, emotional reconnection, I suppose, these environments.
So there you have the Princess of Wales celebrating her connection to nature on a trip to the Lake District with the Scouts. She hails the balance and peace of the great outdoors. What's your experience?
Don't know if any other pop stars have been to space, but I just wanted to honor my fellow astronauts and just, hold the space in space.
A giant leap for womankind? Well, as star-studded all-female crew returns from a brief visit to space, we're asking, should the super-rich be going into space?
How many hit records did Neil Armstrong have? And in sport, Aston Villa need to overturn a 2-goal deficit at Villa Park tonight as they play Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League quarter-final second leg. We will head to Paris shortly to discuss. Snooker history was made in the World Championship qualifiers, though, yesterday, earning a player £147,000. And should Rory McIlroy have a knighthood added to his Grand Slam?
Hello there, good morning. A wet day ahead, particularly across parts of England and Wales, and a risk of some heavy showers, which may bring some hail and thunder. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
2 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. A very good morning to you on this Tuesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Miriam Cates, and you're watching GB News Breakfast.
Hope from the government this morning is that British Steel can be saved. The government has confirmed they have secured the materials needed to keep the blast furnaces running for the next few weeks.
We've got the raw materials, they've been paid for, and we're confident that the furnaces will continue to fire. We've taken the action we've taken over the weekend. It was important that we did that. We secured the site. We've got a new CEO and management team here, and we're confident that they'll be able to continue into the future.
Meanwhile, it's being reported that the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, encouraged Chinese investment in critical infrastructure just weeks before the government had to take that step and take control of the Beijing-owned steel plant.
Now, in a separate twist, the Unite Union is considering a series of nationwide bin strikes. Should there be further pay disputes similar to Birmingham?
Well, let's get the thoughts of the Deputy Editor of Spite Online, Fraser Myers. Shall we start with steel, Fraser? And obviously, a lot of unknowns at the moment. Will it be fully nationalised? Will Scunthorpe be fully nationalised? If it is, what kind of taxpayer funding is going to have to be put in, given that, as you were saying earlier, it's currently losing £700,000 a day?
Yeah, I suspect it will have to be fully nationalised because there won't be many commercial buyers willing to lose £700,000 a day.
Jeff Bezos.
Someone to come and save us, yeah. I mean, what's interesting is the government says that they had offered Jingye, the Chinese-owned company, an extraordinary amount of money to keep the plant running. So they offered at least £500 million to help them convert the process into an electric steel-making process. They'd offered to buy all of the raw materials on behalf of the company, and they still rejected it. And that's when I think Jonathan Reynolds twigged that something was up, that the Chinese company actually wanted to shut down the blast furnaces, against the government's will.
But some people have been warning about this for years, not least myself and former colleagues who represented steel areas in the country, saying that this was a deliberate attempt to run down British steelmaking, to reproduce, in fact, the plant in China, take over some of the expertise into China, and then decide that it's not profitable anymore. I mean, it's really difficult to understand how the government couldn't see this coming.
Well, exactly. You would think, what would their motive be in buying such an unprofitable company? But then you also have to take a step back and ask, well, how did British steelmaking get into this crisis in the first place? And, there are many factors that are beyond the government's control. I mean, there is the sort of broader Chinese dumping of steel. There's more recently Donald Trump's tariffs on steel have obviously created problems for the industry. But in general, in the UK, it's environmental rules, it's net zero that are one of the biggest factors constraining steel production. I mean, we are paying our electricity prices for industry are the highest in the world. It's no coincidence that our transition away from coal has had a big impact on the steel industry, not just in terms of producing energy. It's the cheapest form of energy production, but it's also essential for making steel. Now, we're going to move to a system as well where we have in Port Talbot, which is the biggest steelmaking plant, and now at British Steel and Scunthorpe. Eventually, we're going to turn off all of the blast furnaces, all of the coal blast furnaces, move to an electric system. But the problem with that is that it means it can't make steel from scratch. It can only make recycled steel. Now, recycled steel can be useful, but a lot of things like defence, critical infrastructure, car making, that needs virgin steel. And soon, the UK, the country that invented modern steel making, will be the only country in the G7 that is incapable of making this product.
That's fascinating, Fraser, what you're saying to me there, because I have no idea why an electric furnace would be different than an ordinary blast furnace, and why you couldn't make steel from scratch.
Well, essentially, it's because it doesn't use the input is different. So it has to use recycled steel. I'm not entirely sure of the exact process why, but it's true.
In a blast furnace, you throw in the iron ore and you heat it up to massive temperatures.
How do you know this?
I used to be a chemistry teacher.
That's right.
Yes, and massive temperatures, and you basically burn off everything that isn't the iron, and you end up with pure molten iron. Electric arc furnace, you can stick in scrap, and it melts it down again. So that you can reform it into something else. But it doesn't, it's not a furnace. You can't burn off the oxygen and the impurities. So someone in the world needs a blast furnace. Why shouldn't we have it?
China will continue.
Listening to what Miriam's having to say and the situation that we're in is that you've got to look at this business in a different way. So you've got to look and you say, this is not just about making pounds, shillings and pence. This is about the environment. This is about strategy. This is about national defence. Whatever. So we've got to look at this differently. Why are we selling it off to somebody around the world? Why aren't we saying this is part of Britain and we've got to secure it?
Yeah, I think, and that's why nationalisation is probably a sensible move. And there's a level of loss that I think the government should tolerate because this is an important strategic industry. But the losses could be a lot lower if the electricity prices or energy costs were not so high. And that would make it, you know, we don't want the government to lose money unnecessarily. That might make the industry more competitive, even if it is owned by the state. So there are these issues. And eventually, I think, you know, if the government is going to go down the path of greening the steel industry, we are going to lose a serious capability, and that is...
And actually, this is all routes lead back to net zero. I mean, there are other factors, as you said, Chinese dumping. But I just find it really difficult to understand how those on the left think there are no borders on land and anyone should come in, but there are these magic borders in the sky, which means that if we reduce our carbon emissions, suddenly the whole world cools down. It doesn't work like that.
Well, everyone seems to have this idea that if we make the first move on net zero, then everyone else will follow, when what's really happened is we're making the first move. The world is seeing what a disaster it has been, and they're thinking, yeah, well, let's try something else. And, you know, China in particular is obviously benefiting enormously from this. They're not going to close down their coal blast furnaces. They're not going to close down their coal power stations. And you know what? Good on them, because they need to develop, they need to get richer. But so do we. You know, we can't rely on... We can't trade on just being virtuous. We have to actually have a serious...
Just trade with China. This whole idea that we're interdependent with China, that we're all going to hell in a handcart if we don't trade with China. Why don't we just wake up to the fact is, China, we don't do business with you. Really, that's the...
Well, that's exactly what Donald Trump's trying to do in America, isn't he? Trying to decouple the American economy from China. I mean, it's going to be a rocky ride, but what's the alternative? They can't carry on with the kind of trade deficit they've got.
Well, as you say, you know, it is going to be, whether it's best in the long run, in the short term, it is going to be a very, very difficult process, and there's going to be a lot of pain for consumers. But maybe, you know, maybe it will bring jobs back to America. Maybe it will bring jobs back to the West. I mean, it remains to be seen. It's an untested...
Security back.
Well, the security, again, is, one of the big issues. You do have to ask yourself, how did we get into this position where we are relying on China, relying on Chinese investment, Chinese expertise for critical energy infrastructure, to bail out our steel companies, to be a part of the telecom system? I mean, you know, soon they're going to build a massive mega Chinese embassy in London, right in the heart of the financial district. How do we get ourselves in this position? It's going to take us a long time to get out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that brings us to our poll of the day that we're running. Is China trying to sabotage Britain's steel industry? What do you think about that one? Any scores on the doors for this one so far? No, but we should have. But anyway, we will bring you the results as we get them throughout the programme this morning. Stay tuned for those. Fraser, thank you very much for your input this morning. Very much appreciated. China, what should we do with China? Let us know this morning. Oh, wait a minute, we're getting something. 98% saying China are really just trying to wreck us.
Sounds like a Beijing election result.
They 98%.
Well, we've got some breaking news. Unemployment has remained stable at 4.4%, but it's a 0.2 rise year on year.
OK, 4.4%, 0.2 rise year on year. Let's speak to Chief Economic Advisor, Centre for Economic and Business Research, Vicky Price is there on that. Vicky, what do you make of these figures? Morning.
Well, for the moment, good morning. I mean, they look good. So there's been stability in the market. But if you look a little bit further down, and of course there is the question of what happens next. But for the moment, I mean, these figures only really take you up more or less to February. There is some data also for March where it looks at payroll numbers. Those are beginning to go down, and that's a bit of a worry. And also vacancy rates are coming down, and they are now at a level, even though they're about 750,000 vacancies advertised. What you've got is that the level has gone back to pre-pandemic levels. So we're not exactly booming in that respect, but at least we've gone back to something normal. But those vacancies were considerably higher just a few months ago. So there is a little bit of a downturn that's taking place. So this is the interesting thing, that so far so good, more or less. The question is what happens next. And those payroll numbers are a bit of a worry, the fact they're beginning to go down. And we do know from businesses, lots of surveys, not necessarily of the sort you were just conducting about China, but quite a lot of surveys are suggesting that businesses are holding back in terms of hiring. And we've heard quite a lot of that intending to continue.
Vicky, where are the vacancies in the country? I mean, we're looking at the unemployment figures there, but if you were looking around the country, where are the vacancies?
Well, the interesting thing is that the service sector is still doing well. And the hospitality sector is doing well. I mean, despite the grievances that they have, of course. So there's quite a lot of that type of labour, which was short term, if you like, comes in, works in various areas and then moves on. Well, that is certainly a problem. But if you look at manufacturing, I mean, there's been interestingly enough quite an increase in production in the last month or so, and I think you've heard a little bit about that in the GDP data that came out just recently, where there was a lot of production going on to sell to the US before the tariffs came on. So there are shortages there. But if you look at the construction sector in particular, this is the one area where we are now depending hugely in terms of making sure that enough homes are built and so on, and infrastructure spending, which absolutely needs to develop further. There are big shortages in all the trades in that area, and of course that has also meant that wages have been quite high there as well. So that's one of the concerns that we have. We used to have people come in again with skills from Europe who don't come anymore. But you've also seen those vacancies. The fact that there are some vacancies in some areas reflected in wages, because one of the things that came out today again is wages, average wages, which are going up by something like 5.9% or 5.6%, depending whether you look with bonuses or without bonuses. And what this means is that we are actually paying people, above inflation, because we do need them to be there and doing various things for us, and their real wages are increasing.
Well, this is the big question, isn't it, Vicky, about immigration? Because the labour market's been very tight now for a very long time, mostly because the birth rate's dropped so much that there just aren't enough young people coming in to the workplace to replace those who are retiring. And yet we've had massive immigration, unprecedented immigration over the last few years, and yet those vacancies haven't been filled. And it appears that a lot of people who come over here legitimately on visas are not actually coming to work. So how do we get through this? How do we make sure that we can get skilled workers for particular jobs that we need doing, but we're not also importing hundreds of thousands of people who are students or dependents or who don't work?
Well, the government has of course clamped down a little bit on bringing in dependents. But the interesting thing is that quite a lot of the migration that has taken place has gone into public sector type jobs. So doctors, for example, nurses, care workers. A lot of that has been going on. Yes, of course, in a certain number of students. But it is those areas where people have been coming in. The skills program that we have at present, which now requires paying quite high salaries before you can bring anybody in, has cost businesses an awful lot of extra money. And given that we are in a position now where the world is slowing down, that's going to be a real issue for profitability in the future, and also for willingness of firms to expand. So we have a policy where it costs hugely to bring somebody with skills in. And therefore, one of those issues we're discussing just a few seconds ago about vacancies in various areas simply because they're unaffordable.
OK. Vicky Price, thanks for your analysis. We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Right, a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom on this Tuesday morning. Retailers got a spring lift in March. Sales are up 1.1%, according to the British Retail Consortium. Warm weather and Mother's Day has drove demand for gardening gear, DIY tools, jewellery and beauty products, it seems.
And a game changer for heart attack patients. A new study from Imperial College says combining statins with easy Timbe early could provide thousands of heart attacks. Sorry, could prevent thousands of heart attacks. That's what we want. Analysis of 36,000 patients found that those treated with within 12 weeks of a heart attack had better outcomes, cutting risks and new events and death.
Katy Perry says she plans to write a song about her mission into space. The pop star's Blue Origin rocket blasted off from West Texas on the first ever all-female mission. The singer joined 5 other women, including a former NASA scientist and civil rights activist, for the 11-minute suborbital flight. A short time later, the capsule landed back in the Texas desert by parachute. But why? What's the point?
How can it be called a mission? A jolly? A trip? But
it's like a fun fair ride. It's like if you went to a theme park, you'd get something like that.
Crazy.
I just don't get it. I don't get why we interfere with the climate and things, sending up a massive big rocket so people can look out a window and go, cooey, look at that.
Rich people have always done crazy things, and I don't really have an objection to that, but it's trying to bill it as some sort of advancement in civil rights, which
I've seen too many rockets blowing up over the years.
Well, yes.
Just sort of think, you can do it without me, that's okay.
Absolutely. It's like, I love the idea of skydiving, but I'd never do it. Never, never. I just couldn't jump out.
Space, the final frontier. There we go. Honor Krizik with the weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead with heavy outbreaks of rain in the west with a Met Office weather warning in force. Elsewhere, a bit brighter, but some showers which could have some hail and thunder. Now, it's going to be quite a wet start across parts of North East England, parts of East Anglia, also across Wales and parts of the southwest. Some quite heavy downpours at times. And we do have a rain warning issued for parts of Wales and the southwest. A chance we could see some travel disruption and some flooding in these areas. And across central areas, parts of the southeast, some brighter spells, but also some showers with a risk of hail and thunder. And a little bit drier across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, but can't rule out the odd shower or two. Now, to finish off the day, the rain across the west is set to linger, particularly across Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall. Once again, some heavy outbreaks of time at times, particularly across rush hour. So do keep an eye on our website for any warning details. A largely dry end to the day across Northern Ireland, but we're set to see some rain move in here as we head through the overnight period. Quite a wet end to the day across eastern parts of Scotland, but across the northwest, probably seeing the best of the brightness. But here, once again, can't even rule out a risk of a shower too. And as we head through into the overnight period, it's set to remain fairly unsettled, some heavy and possibly thundery outbreaks of rain. Once again, that rain persisting across parts of Wales and the southwest and eventually moving into northern England and southern parts of Scotland through the course of the night. But with all the cloud and the rain, that means things aren't set to be too chilly. So it's going to be a fairly mild night for many, perhaps a chance of some rural frost across the very far west of Ireland and northwest Scotland. Wednesday, once again, an unsettled day. Outbreaks of rain slowly shifting their way northwards into Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, still lingering for a time across Wales too. May even bring some snow across the Pennines and across the Scottish uplands. But across the south, a brighter day, but a chance of some showers skirting into the southwest later on into the afternoon and feeling cooler for all with highs around 15 degrees Celsius.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Great British Giveaway, here it comes your way, and it could be a life changer. Well, maybe not a life changer, but certainly things for the better as you tootle around the whole country in your big camper van, in your motorhome, and it's worth nearly 70 grand. The motorhome.
And £5,000 cash as well. So here's what you need to do to enter.
You could be spending your summer in style, on the road in this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. It sleeps 4, comes with integrated kitchen and bathroom spaces, and comfortably has space for all the family. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. It's our biggest prize package ever, and it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Nice one, that. We've got some breaking news. Miriam, what is it?
Well, the US Vice President J.D. Vance has said there is a good chance a trade agreement will be reached between the US and the UK. In an interview with the Unheard magazine, Vance said that the US is working very hard on getting a great deal with the UK.
They're working very hard for a great deal. That means a great deal for them.
Probably. It'll have to be mutually acceptable, won't it? Well, still to come, the first all-female space crew. That's next. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Miriam.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So there were a lot of people, a lot of names going up in this rocket into space. They're saying it's the first all-female Blue Origin space mission. Katy Perry, the big name amongst all that. They all wore blue
tight
border
suits,
suits or whatever it happened to be. Is that why it's called Blue Origin? Or
I don't know. I think that was Jeff Bezos's name. He's funded it, hasn't he? I think one of the women on board was his fiancée, and so it's been called her hen party or something.
Right, let's see what else. Auto Q, thank you. But should we be gifting the opportunity to the super rich to go into space or leave it to astronauts? The founder of Pimlico Plumbers, Charlie Mullins, believes the super rich should be able to go to space, and environmentalist Donegal McCarthy, who believes they shouldn't. I mean, Donegal, I look at it, it's just a big funfair ride, this. I can't see the point of this.
Well, the carbon footprint is just absolutely staggering. For each one of those astronauts who are tourists who went to space yesterday, they emitted up to 17 tonnes per person. What does that mean, 17 tonnes of carbon footprint?
Well, relate that to the rest of us, and if we were going on holiday, for instance.
Sure, well, for example, you'd have to turn everything off in your home, Eamonn, for 34 years.
34 years?
Before you make up the pollution. It's staggering. And I think what it symbolises to me is the huge carbon footprint of the rich. The top 1%, Eamonn and Miriam, emit the same amount of carbon as the 70% of the poorest in humanity. They emit the same amount as 70% of humanity. What we've got here in this story is a symbol of the huge destruction of carbon by the rich, and the poor are paying the price. Because why are the poor paying the price? We've got higher house insurance because of extreme weather. We've got higher food price because of damage to our crops. And actually, it's damaging our health as well. It's corporate socialism. The poor pay the price and the rich get the jollies in space.
Charlie, has it not always been the case that the rich consume far more in comparison to the poor? I mean, that is just a fact of, like, the alternative to that is communism, and that hasn't worked out very well.
Yeah, well, look, he's got the money, and I think why not? It's a great experiment to do. Obviously, it shows how safe he trusts it. He sends his fiancée in there, or future fiancée. So I think why not? And I think more money they make from this is going to go into research. But you know, maybe one day we'll all be doing it. You know, fairly soon.
Would you do it, Charlie? I mean, would you pay the money to go for a ride on that rocket?
Undoubtedly, yeah. If I could wear my WeFix uniform, of course, yeah. Undoubtedly, the publicity would be incredible. It's a great publicity stunt. It's all over the world. Everyone's talking about it. So I think it's a magnificent thing that they've done. You know, you're always going to get the knockers, obviously, and mainly that's people that can't afford it. But yeah, I think it's the best publicity stunt I've ever known of.
Donica, how would you resolve this then? Because your argument is that from a carbon footprint point of view, it's just absolutely excessive. It can't be excused by science and technology because this was not an exploratory mission. It was just a tourist jolly, as Charlie has said. I mean, you can't ban people from doing this. Are you just saying you'd tax much more highly rocket fuel or whatever it is to try and limit the amount of flights that are taken?
No, we can regulate space tourism. Space tourism in a climate crisis is unacceptable. A jolly of 4 minutes and trashing the planet. What we do need to do is to tax the super rich, who are actually, you know, like Jeff Bezos. How much tax does he pay in the UK? Makes billions and doesn't pay tax. We need to tax the rich super polluters and use that money to fund the poor. So, for example, in the UK, we're talking, yes, we are, you know, he's right, we are talking about this publicity stunt, but we're not talking about the poor pensioners in rural areas whose bus services have been slashed over the last 14 years.
I think you're conflating
so we want
several different
we want to
issues
invest
here.
the taxes from the super-rich pollution to invest in poor's rural transport.
I take your point about Amazon not paying enough tax here, absolutely, and these kind of international digital companies, we have not yet worked out how to tax them properly. True. But nevertheless, in the UK, the top 1% of earners pay, I think 30% of tax, and the top 10% pay nearly all of it. You cannot tax the rich anymore and still expect them to stay in this country, create jobs, take risks. I mean, Charlie, you know, you're a business owner. Do you want to pay some more tax?
Well, of course not. I mean, we're all paying enough. And just because he's come up with an idea where you could go up in space for 11 minutes, why would you need to tax him more? Chances are he's already paying his tax. I mean, he employs millions of people. I mean, why are we back at the same old stage of knocking successful people?
Well,
this will bring in a lot of money. This what he's done is probably the biggest promotional advert he can ever do. So this is going to bring in massive money and massive taxes.
But when you say bring in massive money, Charlie, you mean to who? To Bezos?
Well, of course, people are going to be wanting to pay it, and then they're going to do the journey. They're going to be paying tax on it. So you know, it's a massive breakthrough. And
there is no tax on it.
Maybe it's part of his pre-nat.
If you fly on your holiday to the Canaries, you pay tax. If you fly to space, you don't. I think the point is that you made about we have to figure out how do we tax the super rich. Because with the tax havens, they're not paying their taxes. And over the last the reason why so many people are angry in the UK, in my view, and they're angry against Labour, they're angry against the Tories, is because over the last 30 years, their wages have been flatlining. But the super rich have been making billions. We've actually moved from where you used to take a few bus loads of people to actually own 50% of the planet. It's now just nearly a taxi full. We're heading towards 5 trillionaires owning half the wealth of the planet. That is not sustainable if we're going to have a civil society, whether we're going to have democracy, and whether we're going to have a safe carbon future. And I think that we need to tax the rich and fund the poor to have a green transition. So they have solar homes, they have cheap energy bills, and they have a proper bus service.
Well, Donica and Charlie, whoever we're taxing, whatever we're doing, I couldn't care less. I still wouldn't get on that.
More buses, fewer rockets. That's what we need.
More buses, fewer rockets.
Well, why do we always have to turn this conversation back onto tax? The man's paid millions of tax, employs millions of people. He's done an experiment.
No tax in the UK. He pays no tax, Charlie. Come on, look at Amazon pays us almost zero tax in the UK.
Well, this is why Trump's rolling back globalisation.
You and I have, that's for sure.
Not
proportionally.
Gentlemen, got to leave it there. Thank you both very, very much indeed. Appreciate it. We're going to take a rocket into the break, coming back with on a parachute.
I love this backdrop, Eamonn. It's wonderful.
It's lovely, isn't it? Yeah, very good. Paul Coit with the sport, looking ahead to Aston Villa against PSG tonight in the Champions League.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M60 in Greater Manchester is blocked by an accident clockwise at junction 10 for the Trafford Centre, causing queues. In Staffordshire, the A34 is closed northbound along Torque Road in Stoke-on-Trent after an accident. The M1 in Northamptonshire is blocked northbound between junction 16 and 17 from Northampton to the M45, causing queues. On the M25 in Kent, the inside lane's closed clockwise with someone's broken down at junction 1A at Dartford. It's taking nearly half an hour in queues back beyond junction 30 for the A13. And in Wiltshire, the A303 is closed in both directions around the Mere bypass after an accident late last night.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Champions League action tonight. Aston Villa really up against it, though they are at home, but a 2-goal deficit. They're 3-1 down.
What do you think
after the first leg? I think the chance are nil against PSG.
Oh, do you think nil? You think no?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be. You know what? There have been comebacks before in the Champions League.
Yeah.
2019, Liverpool were 3-0 down against Barcelona, and they won 4-0. Miriam, as you told me earlier.
Did I?
Yes, you did. 2019,
Good.
Juventus and Atletico Madrid 2-0 down, 1-3-0. How about PSG were involved in one in 2017? And interestingly, Unai Emery was the manager there. And Barcelona, 4-0. It was 4-0 to PSG, and it ended up Barcelona 1-6-1. So it is doable. And you know what? We'll go straight to the top. We'll go to Paris, and from L'Equipe, Eric Bieldeman, who is the finest French sports journalist in the world. Morning, Eric.
Good morning, Paul.
You're crazy.
Listen, it's great to see it. Now, you're a PSG fan as well. We've got a lot of Villa fans, even around this building, let alone around the country. What do you think the chances are? Because it was all PSG in Paris, but coming over to Birmingham, things could be different.
Yeah, it could be different. We had the same feeling when Paris Saint-Germain went to play at Anfield. We were, I would say, more afraid a couple of weeks ago to come to Anfield compared to Villa Park. Maybe we are going to be wrong tonight to have a different feeling. But the game is another story. We have a 3-1 lead, and I do believe that the third goal on the very last minute is a goal too far for a Birmingham team. I do.
You know what? This is what everybody was saying here as well. It was just that extra goal right at the very end that made all the difference. Tell me about PSG, though, because things are different now, aren't they? When, you know, it's no the big stars and Mbappe's gone, there's no Neymar, and, of course, Messi, and everybody expected everything from PSG, and it never worked. Why better now? It's all about team, less than individuals?
Yeah, I think you just told everything. Paris Saint-Germain is a team. Is not what it was a couple of years ago with world-class stars. But if you were looking at the games, they were never defending. They were playing up front. They were playing to make the show, to score goals. But a team has to defend 11 players together. And nowadays, what you can see from Dembele, what you can see from every single offensive players, they work hard. And also the bench. If you look at the bench, when you have Doué who came, when you have Barcola who came from the bench, this team also have reserve player. They can have a first 11, but you can really bet that they have a squad of 15, 16 world-class players, but none of them is a star. None of them is a Mbappe. None of them is a Neymar, and none of them is a Messi. And we are so happy of getting rid of them.
It's amazing. It's amazing, really, because everybody wanted these great stars, and it's like,
keep them,
you know,
keep them.
Absolutely useless, that Mbappe. So much better without him. One more quick one. So I know you probably expect that you're going to go through tonight. Are PSG the favourites for the Champions League, Eric?
I think we are among the two favourites with Barcelona. But in the meantime, you know that tomorrow night Real Madrid can maybe overcome the 3-goal deficit versus Arsenal. So it's such a strange team, and we do hope they will overcome, because to have a semi-final with Paris Saint-Germain without Mbappe versus Real Madrid plus Mbappe, that would be for us the dream semi-final to entertain.
Or Aston Villa versus Arsenal, of course, but you never know. Eric, have a great day. It's good to speak to you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. That's lovely, lovely to hear.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Paul. The kick-off there is 7:45, isn't it?
Yeah, we're 8 o'clock, I believe, tonight.
8 o'clock tonight. Villa trail by 2 goals, and they're playing at Villa Park. Good luck to them. Thank you very much indeed. We're going to be back with the newspapers. Andy Williams and Lauren McKevitt there. And here's your look. We'll put a smile on their face. We're going to show them some holiday sun, some European sunny destinations. Here we go.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're hoping to get away for the rest of the Easter holidays, I'm afraid it's rather unsettled across the central Mediterranean. Heavy showers, thunderstorms and also some strong winds. Largely dry across Madeira and the rest of the Canary Islands, though, particularly after all the heavy rain recently. But as we shift our way eastwards, heavy showers affecting much of the central Mediterranean. These could have hail and also some thunder and some strong winds associated with them too. Largely dry across Greece, and it's turning largely dry for all as we head into Saturday, with temperatures widely in the mid to high teens to low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, how fierce is the competition to become Lord Sugar's next business partner? Well, our final guest today has been in the throes of that competition.
Goodness me, yes, Liam Snellen is taking part in the current series of The Apprentice, and he worked as an electrician for 10 years, and now he's turning his hand to making comfortable yet fashionable workwear. So there you go.
Well, I just want to ask what it's like to be a contestant on The Apprentice, having been a fan of the show for years prior. Is it a bit weird?
Yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't say it's weird. I feel like you can manifest anything in life, you know, and over 10 years ago I said that I wanted to be on the show with no real business at the time and not knowing how I was going to do it. But as I said, I manifested it and I'm here and on the show.
You manifested it? How did you manifest it then? Go on.
Well, you just need to vision that something has already happened, you know, you just haven't attained it yet, so you just need to attain the frequency to achieve that thing, and that's obviously what I've done, and it's my time.
Liam, are you still on the show?
I am still on the show.
How far did you make it?
So, well, you have to wait and see. You have to wait and see. Obviously,
Could be the winner.
Yeah, could be. So we had a little bit of banter about a hot sauce. I was licking a plate, which was a bit embarrassing. So we was doing an advertisement for our hot sauce brand, and we didn't actually have the bottle, so we needed to sort of think on our feet and make an advert without having the product.
How long are you in the boardroom? Obviously, it has to be sliced down to an hour, but you must be in there for a long time, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So obviously, you're in there a lot longer than what it shows. You know, it's such a small part of the show when really you're in there for like up to a couple of hours. So it's a really intense period. Like, they definitely go into all of the task and the good things and the bad things that happened, and then obviously the key highlights get shown to the public.
The People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Here with the papers, we've got Andy Williams, we've got Laura McKevitt, and they've got a few things to say. First of all, Andy, about J.D. Vance.
Yes, so J.D. Vance has written an opinion. Well, he's actually spoken to Unheard, the website this morning, and quite a wide-ranging interview talking about his view on sort of security in Europe and the relationship with the United States. I think I'd say two things. The first is that seems to be a slight softening of his stance. He's sort of positioning Trump's quite hardline stance and his hardline stance on Europe as, oh, well, it's not good for Europe to be too reliant on America. So, you know, we're trying to help Europe out by weaning them off American money and support, as if he cares in any way, shape or form about Europe or European people.
They do care what he thinks. This technique that Trump and him bullies, like both of them.
Absolutely.
That they can go and they can insult you straight to your face, and then if they smile and are nice to you, people go, oh, yes, we're very keen to please you, whatever you want, JD.
But I think they're consistent. I think they're entirely consistent.
No, but they aren't. What I really enjoyed about this was they came out about 2 weeks ago and said, oh, you know, Europe is so dependent upon American security, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Europe turn around and say, fine, we're going to buy more, we're going to buy more, and we're going to buy it from Thales and Airbus and all of the European defence contractors. And America went, oh, no, we didn't mean that. We meant you still had to buy Boeing, you still had to buy Lockheed. You know, we didn't mean you could then, you know, be protectionist about your own defence expenditure, which is entirely against what they were then saying the week before. What I enjoyed about this article, though, is Vance has come out in support of Eden over Eisenhower in the Suez Crisis, which, you know, finally puts to bed a 70-year wrong of America flushing our east of Suez power down the line.
You can mock him, and many people do. But they have a good point, which is that since China joined the World Trade Organization 25 years ago. American industry has died. Our industry has died. Their balance of trade has got worse and worse and worse. They're now in a position where they can't make an awful lot of things for themselves. They're hugely in debt. And what choice do they have but to reset the global order?
Two things about that. The first is the only way that America can compete with Chinese manufacturing is to pay American people slave wages, which isn't going to happen and shouldn't happen. And secondly...
Or to put such high tariffs on Chinese goods that there's no choice but to produce these things in America at American...
And to wean the land of the free off cheap consumer goods. Yeah. Good luck.
But what's the alternative long term? What is the alternative long term?
What Trump should have done, strategically, what he should have done is he should have taken a really hard line on China with tariffs, but built a coalition with the rest of the world, with the rest of the international community, and said, Europe, you know how China actually is a massive threat in terms of democracy and in terms of the economy. We're together and we stand against China, rather than completely broad brushstrokes putting tariffs on every country in the world and alienating Europe.
And the penguins. Let's not forget the penguins.
But
they're all British.
But do you not think, though, that this is this is where they've landed, is massive tariffs on China and slightly reduced and negotiated tariffs on Europe? But isn't this what JD Vance is trying to do? He's trying to say to the Europeans, do you know what? You elites that are in power right now, you are not capable of working with the United States, because look what you've done with your money for the last 25 years. Look how you've opened yourself up to Russia, to China. And actually, isn't he trying to give the kind of populist movement in Europe a bit of a boost?
Well, I mean, I don't think that's a good thing, because I don't think the populist movement in Europe is good for European people. I don't think it's the right way to go. I don't think they have the answers to the complex problems we face. I also, on the populist point, I think it's interesting that he sounded quite defensive around accusations that Trump and Vance and the US administration are on the side of Russia. He says, I think it's sort of absurd for Zelensky to tell the American government that we're somehow on the side of the Russians. Well, everything they're saying and doing looks quite like they're on the side of the Russians.
Quite like that, yeah.
And yet, the Americans have pretty much funded the Ukrainians, well, alongside Europe, of course, for the last few years. And they're just taking a realist point of view.
Well, per percentage head of population, Estonia is the largest contributor. So let's not think that America has really punished itself in supporting
I think
Ukraine.
I'm right in saying, have put more money in
Absolutely.
America.
Indeed, but we still buy more Russian oil and gas than we give in support to Ukraine.
Well, Europe do, we don't.
Yeah, Europe as a whole.
Yeah. And, you know, that is something where many people over the course of the last 20 years have tried to raise a flag on it from all sides of the political equation. And our obsession with reaching net zero is what has brought us to this. You know, the Green Party, for example, putting us in the ludicrous position of saying, well, we can't have any nuclear, but when we run out of wind power, we'll buy it from France, which is all nuclear, has put us in the ludicrous position of requiring within the European Union and previously in the United Kingdom, buying oil and gas from people we don't like, rather than making it here, which we could do and don't.
Now, that all sounds crazy, Lauren, and it's front page of The Sun today. Voters' poll verdict. They have Britain. People believe in this country that Britain as a country is broken. Whether it's what's happened during the general election, we're going in the wrong direction, the border situation, the NHS, the economy is failing. So on a national level, they believe the country is broken. And who could argue against it?
It is hard to argue against it, and I think that this is why we see the rise of Reform as a political entity. It's why about 7 years ago we saw the rise of Jeremy Corbyn within the Labour Party as a political entity. There is this distrust of institutions because they are failing. They are failing across the board, and they are failing in such a coordinated fashion that it makes it look like the state is just existing to protect itself against the voters permanently, which is never going to be popular with the voters. And I think, you know, Vance is speaking to some of that in the United States. There are parties within the United Kingdom speaking to some of that. We have a situation where we have parliamentarians such as Nigel Farage saying, well, I would just deport people. And anybody who's been in government in the last 20 years saying, well, technically it's illegal for us to do so because we sit in the European Convention of Human Rights. And Kemi Badenoch finally, in a sort of a two-line thing on page 7 of one of the papers this morning, saying that she might be about to announce that she's in support of leaving ECHR, which is probably a bit behind the times when Robert Jenrick was talking about it during the leadership campaign. Britain going in the wrong direction, according to a poll, is a problem for the major parties at national level, and the Conservative Party is not prepared as one party to deal with the fact the Red Wall isn't coming back and the South West isn't coming back with the Lib Dem split.
And I think, and as I say this as a supporter of the Labour Party, I think they're making a major strategic mistake, which is that they have an enormous majority, and they have now 4, but had 5 years to do some really bold, radical things to tackle these massive problems. Tinkering around the edges is not going to make a difference here.
Yeah.
Take welfare, for example. Cut $5 billion off the welfare bill, OK, doesn't touch the sides, doesn't address the fact that we've got 9 million people on out-of-work benefits. You know, there are all of these...
Does nothing to address the bulk of that payment being about pensions and not about out-of-work or in-work benefits.
I mean, we should bin the triple lock tomorrow, but that's a 100%. Debate for another day. But it's complete... Someone needs to stand up and say that's completely unaffordable. And as you say, until we do that, it's not going to...
But unfortunately, until all political parties come to this realisation, or at least bold enough to say it, no one political party can say it because it's political.
The grooming gangs thing is another issue where a national inquiry on this is important, because if you've got 5 children's services sectors across 5 different councils failing, you have a national problem, not 5 local problems. Similarly with the police, you need national inquiries for this, which we did when I was in the Wales office around the McCurr review. It is important.
And talking of broken Britain, we've obviously got the bin strike still in Birmingham, and a pay deal's been rejected. There's no end in sight, is there, Andy?
There's not, and the unions, I guess, have local councils over a barrel here. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but what I do know is I look at Birmingham and I think it's like the 1970s. There's rubbish piling high in the streets. And it's, I mean, one of my best friends from home lives in Birmingham, and he says he lives just outside Birmingham, but he goes into the city centre, and it's like wasteland. It's dreadful.
Dreadful. From city centres to the country and outdoors, Kate, the Princess of Wales, over a lot of the papers, and we're carrying this story today. She spoke of her spiritual connection with nature.
Yeah, so this is a big spread in the Mirror this morning about the Princess of Wales talking about the importance of the countryside and nature to her because of being able to find peace there and the amount that she's gone through health-wise in the last 18 months, this being a big boon to her recovery. I'm from a part of the country that is deep in the countryside. I'm from Gloucestershire, and the village I'm from has 1 pub, no shop. That's how deep in the countryside we are. It is important. It is somewhere where people find peace, and nature is important for health, for mental health. And the reason why I think this story is important is because we're going to have a problem with the Labour government and rewilding and nature and agriculture. They're willing to bail out a failing steel mill that's been in loss-making powers for 8 years or so, and they are hammering the countryside and agriculture, and it's going to be bad.
Strong words. Food for thought, Lauren. Thank you very much.
Well, no food
indeed.
if the agriculture sector goes bust.
Thank you. And Andy, thank you very much indeed. See you again in 40 minutes' time. Here's the weather update with Honor.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead with heavy outbreaks of rain in the west, with a Met Office weather warning in force. Elsewhere a bit brighter, but some showers which could have some hail and thunder. Now it's going to be quite a wet start across parts of northeast England, parts of East Anglia, also across Wales and parts of the southwest. Some quite heavy downpours at times, and we do have a rain warning issued for parts of Wales and the southwest. A chance we could see some travel disruption and some flooding in these areas. And across central areas, parts of the southeast, some brighter spells, but also some showers with a risk of hail and thunder, and a little bit drier across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, but can't rule out the odd shower or two. Now, to finish off the day, the rain across the west is set to linger, particularly across Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall. Once again, some heavy outbreaks of time at times, particularly across rush hour. So do keep an eye on our website for any warning details. A largely dry end to the day across Northern Ireland, but we're set to see some rain move in here as we head through the overnight period. Quite a wet end to the day across eastern parts of Scotland, but across the northwest, probably seeing the best of the brightness. But here, once again, can't even rule out a risk of a shower too. And as we head through into the overnight period, it's set to remain fairly unsettled. Some heavy and possibly thundery outbreaks of rain. Once again, that rain persisting across parts of Wales and the southwest, and eventually moving into northern England and southern parts of Scotland through the course of the night. But with all the cloud and the rain, that means things aren't set to be too chilly. So it's going to be a fairly mild night for many. Perhaps a chance of some rural frost across the very far west of Ireland and northwest Scotland. Wednesday, once again, an unsettled day. Outbreaks of rain slowly shifting their way northwards into Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, still lingering for a time across Wales too. May even bring some snow across the Pennines and across the Scottish uplands. But across the south, a brighter day, but a chance of some showers skirting into the southwest later on into the afternoon, and feeling cooler for all, with highs around 15 degrees Celsius.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Staffordshire, the A34 is closed northbound along Torque Road, heading out of Stoke-on-Trent after an accident. The M1 in Northamptonshire is blocked southbound between junctions 17 and 16 from the M45 towards Northampton, causing queues. On the M25 in Kent, the inside lanes closed clockwise, where someone's broken down at junction 1A at Dartford. No queues back over the QE2 bridge, starting a mile after junction 29 for the A127. And in Wiltshire, the A303 is closed in both directions around the Mere bypass after an accident late last night. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Ed Miliband encouraged Chinese investment in infrastructure.
Yes, as the government scrambles to save Scunthorpe Steel, a fresh spotlight is being cast on Beijing's involvement in the UK economy.
I'm here to very, very clearly say to you that the United Kingdom stands committed to deepen and strengthen our partnership.
Oh dear. Will China now retaliate and threaten British jobs?
And with breaking news within the last hour, in an interview, a US President J.D. Vance has said there is a good chance that a trade agreement will be reached between the US and the UK.
Yes, the reciprocal relationship between the UK and the US. According to the US Vice President, that is why we, the UK, are in a much better position to negotiate a new trade deal with the US.
The Birmingham bin crisis could be coming to a street near you. Unite Union snubs Angela Rayner's pay offer as they warn there could be similar bin strikes right across the country.
And pharmacies are folding. 5 chemists were lost a week last year in England as a lack of funding has left them fighting to survive.
In a very spiritual and very intense, emotional reconnection, I suppose, these environments.
That's the Princess of Wales celebrating her connection with nature on a trip to the Lake District with the Scouts. She hails the balance and peace of the great British outdoors.
The Princess previously opened up how she found sanctuary in nature during her cancer treatment. Now she's passing the message on to the next generation. More details shortly.
don't know if any other pop stars have been to space, but I just wanted to honor my fellow astronauts and just, hold the space in space.
A giant leap for womankind? Well, as a star-studded all-female crew returns from a brief visit to space, we've been asking, should the super-rich be going to space at all?
And in the sport, Bournemouth beat Fulham with a goal after 52 seconds of the game. Big game tonight. Aston Villa need to overturn a 2-goal deficit at Villa Park as they play Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League quarter-final second leg. And snooker history was made at the World Championship qualifiers yesterday, earning a player £147,000.
Hello there, good morning. A wet day ahead, particularly across parts of England and Wales, and a risk of some heavy showers, which may bring some hail and thunder. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
2 minutes past 8 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. A very good morning. Thanks for your company. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Miriam Cates, and this is GB News Breakfast.
What, 2 days after he's done it, he won the Masters. Everybody's still... You were saying today the newspaper's full of 8 pages of golf.
We've got 8 pages of golf in the Mail.
8 pages of golf.
Loads of pictures.
I think it's great. And I'm speaking to people that were not into golf. They'd always been moaning about, oh, it's so boring, it's this and that. They're going, oh, yeah, did you see Rory last night? Which is great. So do we think a knighthood? I'm always again. Often I think, I don't like it when they give him a knighthood. You get an Olympic gold, all of a sudden they're knighted or dame something. But this is such a huge thing that he's done.
When you think about it, why wait till he's 60 before recognising his achievements?
Why wait for the new year? Let's do it now. Let's get him to the palace.
He's not just the first Brit, he's the first European, is that right, to win the Grand Slam?
To win the Grand Slam. See, the Grand Slam is something that's never really mentioned because it's so rare to win all 4 majors. And it's only been... The last couple of days, people are calling it the Grand Slam, the Great Grand Slam. But Rory, nobody did. Like Severiano Ballesteros, Nick Faldo, none of them did it. Apart from Rory, it just shows it's an incredible feat.
And you've got Rory's name up in lights. You know Rory's from Hollywood.
Yes.
Hollywood.
Hooray for Hollywood, that's what I say.
Hooray for Hollywood.
Hollywood. And Rory's a nice guy, right? Because you would have met him.
He's more than a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he played Hollywood Golf Club, which was his local golf club. My goodness me, it's all on a hill. It's, it would knacker you.
Yeah, right. Well,
that's the Hollywood Hills, isn't it? That's it.
Hollywood Hills.
Has it got the Hollywood written across on the top of the hill?
If you live there, you're all right.
Yeah.
I lived at the foot of the Hollywood Hills.
Did you? Right, yeah.
The poor bit.
Oh, OK, I got you, yeah. And where was Rory?
No, Rory lived...
was halfway up.
No, he wasn't. No, his family, very ordinary family.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness me, what's he worth now? 50 million or so?
Oh, keep going.
So, keep going.
I mean, if you think of the money that they win from tournaments, so you're thinking like £2-3 million every time they win a tournament, and then the endorsements, there's Nike, and the money that they would pay, and that's going to go up.
Yeah.
So the most unbelievable amount of money. But if you can keep grounded when you've got that sort of thing, that's a special person.
I better get friendly with him.
I think so. Well, this is what I was going to head to. Can you get closer, get back into we can hang out with Rory for a while?
Rory would be our mate.
He would be great. I think he'd get on great with us.
I tell you what he is. He's the most ordinary guy. You meet him. I remember one night, he's good company.
Yeah.
And I always thought that there was a weakness with him, that he was too friendly with too many people.
Yeah.
I mean, people I'll not name, but I remember, people at the height of their career and they're watching games or they're watching... I remember once at the snooker tournament, walking up to a player and saying, incidentally, when this is over, could I... And he just said, shut your mouth.
You are kidding me.
He did. Yeah, he turned...
Is he alive or is he dead?
Oh, he's very famous. And he said to me, never... And he was wearing sunglasses and he took them off. He said, never, ever interrupt me when I'm watching snooker. And, but I learned something from that,
but come on.
I mean, it's rude, but you can understand that some people need to kind of psychologically protect them. I don't know. And it must be frustrating sometimes when people interrupt you. But on the other hand,
but for me,
be a
Miriam,
nice guy.
it's bad manners.
No, I know.
There's no excuse for bad manners.
No, that's right.
At least you go, look, sorry, but...
I'm just concentrating at the moment. Can you speak to me later or something like that?
Please, will you shut up?
But you were saying yesterday, Eamonn, he's now one of the most famous, one of the most successful people from Northern Ireland. I think there was even a suggestion he should do an open-top bus tour.
Well, that was me yesterday.
Oh, was it you?
I think absolutely should, yeah.
Why?
Eamonn.
Not today, it's raining.
Eamonn will be driving the bus, and there'll be Rory there.
I have a bus with my picture on it.
I know, yes, I know. That's what they want. They just have the Eamonn bus, Rory on the top,
nobody on
waving, me applauding
Liam
on the
Neeson.
side.
Have Liam Neeson on there, keeping all the baddies off.
There you go, yeah. Have Liam on there as well. Yeah.
Oh, God. Did I ever tell you my story about my bus being hijacked?
Oh, no.
With the terrorists coming on.
Seriously?
We're commandeering this bus for the provisional IRA. And everybody off. And, you know, you think these people sit there and you go, I say, just get off, get off.
Yeah.
And then they blew it up. That was it.
This isn't the one with your face on the side.
No.
This is when you were a kid and then you got told off when you went back to school late.
Let's hear what J.D. Vance has had to say today. You see,
Yes,
I think this man should be in entertainment. And Miriam disagrees with me. She quite admires him. But I do. He's the sort of guy that I would pick a fight with. I think...
Who would win, though, Eamonn?
Well, I'd be very happy to take him on. I mean, I think Northern Irish politicians, for instance, you look at the Unionists, you look at the Republicans, the Sinn Féin, the DUP, whatever, and I think there's a lot of nonsense goes on in general politics where you just say, never, never, never. You know, that's not going to happen.
He's not that kind of politician.
He is that kind of politician.
He's from a...
He's a big mouth. He's a smart aleck.
Have you read his autobiography?
No, I haven't. But I just know what I see about him in real life. And I'd say, what did you say? You talking to me? You talking to me? That's what I'd be saying.
I mean, he is direct. He's not particularly polite about people. But I think what I like about him is he's one of the very few major world leaders who's willing to tell the truth about where we've got to. So he's willing to stand up to European leaders and say, do you know what? You've blown all your money on welfare, none of it on defence. Do you know what? You talk the talk about being against Putin, but you're still spending billions of dollars on gas. And you've outsourced your industry and your energy policy.
I agree with you in that, Miriam. I think it's the way he goes about it sometimes.
Ruffles feathers, but sometimes that's what's needed.
You've got to ruffle those feathers, you're thinking.
Yeah.
So anyway, he says that a trade deal between Britain and the US is highly likely.
Yes, this was in an interview with the online magazine Unheard, and he said the White House is working very hard and suggests that a US-UK trade relationship will be easier to agree to as we have a much more reciprocal relationship. Well, let's cross live to Westminster and get the latest with our reporter, Adam Cherry. Adam, we've just been discussing our different views about J.D. Vance in the studio, but he has been pretty harsh about Europe over the last few months. Do you think there's a kind of softening of his relationship with the Europeans now, or is this just refined to Britain?
No, I think it's confined to Britain, actually. If you read the quotes in the interview, he's pretty excoriating about most of Europe, particularly Germany, claiming that the US, for his entire lifetime, has been subsidising European security, and argues that, that undoing that and allowing Europe to stand on its own 2 feet, which is a sort of précis of his words, is a good thing for Europe and for the US. Now, if you take a look at his words specifically on the UK, yes, he's much softer, and he's talking specifically about President Trump's view towards Britain. He says that the president has a real cultural affinity towards the UK, and we've seen Trump mention this several times over the last several years, and particularly in his first term. The president really loves the United Kingdom. This is J.D. Vance speaking. He loves the Queen. He admires and loves the King. It is a very important relationship, and he's a businessman. He has a number of important business relationships here, but I think it is much deeper than that. And he says that is the reason why the reciprocal relationship between the US and the UK, partly why it's easier to make, in theory, a trade deal to lower those tariff barriers that were imposed at the start of this month. Now, and that'll be music to the ears of UK government officials. Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, has been trying to get a deal over the line for the last yet, so I don't think they're going to be dancing on the tables necessarily, but it is encouraging, and it will hopefully, according to some government sources, it will go beyond just simply lowering trade tariffs and actually extend to goods and services as well. We don't know the specifics again, as I say. The Chancellor Rachel Reeves will hopefully have something to present within the next month or so, but we are just waiting and seeing at this point, although this, of course, looks encouraging.
Of course, it is deeply ironic, isn't it, that Sir Keir Starmer, who was so opposed to Brexit, who campaigned to have a second referendum and rejoin the EU, is now going to benefit enormously politically from Brexit. Of course, the EU, we know that Trump doesn't like the EU. He thinks it is a protectionist racket imposing trade tariffs on the US, ironically, given how against tariffs we now all are. Do you think Starmer will have to acknowledge the Brexit benefit of this, or do you think it will be papered over?
It's an interesting question. I mean, perhaps through rhetoric, but through action, it looks like the UK is much more interested in getting closer to Europe, but both through defence and security, but also you see through food regulation rules across the headlines over the last couple of days as well. There are whispers that they're willing to follow Europe's lead in that area as well, in agriculture. So he might say, through gritted teeth, that the UK is in a special position here. I don't think he's particularly keen to say that it's because of Brexit, though some of his lieutenants, like Darren Jones, will admit as much, David Lammy less so. But he might say it's because of the UK's historic relationship with the US, which extends beyond geopolitics.
OK, Adam, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. 12 minutes past 8 o'clock. You're watching us on telly, and we're online, and we're on the radio as well. So whatever way you're tuning in, thank you for your company. Striking workers in Birmingham have overwhelmingly voted to reject a partial pay deal, which might have brought an end to the bin strike.
Yes, and now union sources are warning that bin workers across the country could be set to strike. And we're joined now by GB News reporter Jack Carson. Jack, it looks now as though... I don't know if Jack's with us yet. Are you with us, Jack? Okay.
Just...
We know... I mean, it does look like it's going to go national now.
Well, yes, it could be, but then you always come back to this thing about pay parity. And how can you afford to do it if everybody's to be paid the same? If you pay more to the bin workers, you're going to have to pay more to classroom assistants and that sort of thing. But what rubbish legislation it is that has created that position. And Jack Carson has hit a problem outside with communicating. We'll re-establish his line and we'll get back to him whenever we can. But meanwhile, we're going to talk about the Princess of Wales, because she's released a video and she's joined the Chief Scout in a video posted by Kensington Palace about her spiritual connection with nature. And what she's saying, Miriam, is that this gives her calmness and peace in what we all know to be a very busy and hectic world.
And I think she's also trying to encourage children to get out more. That's, I assume, why she's done it with the Scouts. And it was filmed on the shores of Lake Windermere and released overnight.
I find it a very spiritual and very intense, emotional reconnection, I suppose, these environments. Not everyone has that same relationship, perhaps, with nature, but it is so, therefore, meaningful for me as a place to balance and find a sort of sense of peace and reconnection in what is otherwise a very busy world.
Cameron Walker has got his view on all of this. She's making it her thing. The way Charles is done with nature and whatever, and it's a bit of a royal pattern, isn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly a passion of hers. And if you remember, she told us that she found sanctuary in nature during her cancer treatment. So it's kind of on the same theme, but this time she's taking it to the next generation. She's joint president of Scouts, and it was the first time that she met the new chief scout, whose name is Dwayne Fields, and she did this lovely walk. It was filmed last month, but released last night by Kensington Palace. But Scouts has a real issue at the moment, and that is they don't have enough volunteers, adult volunteers, in order to give children these opportunities. And they talk about the fact that it really is helpful for children to be out and about in nature, particularly when it comes to life skills, emotional well-being, helping young people to build confidence and so on. We know the Princess herself moved her own children out of London to live in Windsor so they could have more access to outside space. Now, clearly, the Princess of Wales, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, Prince Louis and Prince William are in an incredibly privileged position. But I think what the Princess is trying to do is, by championing a cause such as Scouts, which is perhaps more accessible to lots of inner-city children and lots of children around the country, it could be a real benefit for them. So that's kind of the reason why the Princess decided to do this video.
She sees it as a huge benefit in everyday life to be surrounded by trees, to walk in a forest, to be able to kick through long grass and whatever. And she thinks there is a spiritual connection with this.
Yeah, she does. And she was joined by Scouts aged between 10 and 15 from Cumbria and Greater Manchester, and she was crouched down on the forest floor with them, studying a paper map. You don't see many of them anymore, do you? Everyone's got their the, Apple map on their phone instead. So it's getting back to basics. They were trying to get their nature badge, and she was kind of helping them with that. But you're right, the video was very cinematic, and it was lots of close-ups of leaves, lots of panoramic views of beautiful Lake Windermere.
It was very beautiful. I'm not sure it'd encourage a child to join the Scouts. That would be maybe that's not what it's for. But I think she's onto something, because certainly children who grow up in inner city areas often have no access whatsoever to the countryside. Don't know where food comes from and things like that, because the only time you see food is in the shop. No idea where it's come from.
That connection.
I think there's a...
You're right, forming that connection. People think food comes from a packet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No idea that bacon comes from pigs and things like that. But, why would you? And actually, this is something that has been happening for decades, if not centuries, of, philanthropists, benefactors trying to get kids out of inner city estates. And
as Cameron's saying, it's not just a situation of getting youngsters to appreciate this. It's getting people to bring them there and supervise them as well. That's what the Scouts need.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's basically trying to appeal to adults around the country to help out with things such as this, particularly, and they make the point that technology and phones clearly is taking over a lot of people's lives, but just getting back to nature, as we have done for millions of years, is probably quite a good thing sometimes, just to reground yourself. I should just say very briefly that Dwayne Fields will actually be joining you two on breakfast in the next hour to talk about meeting the Princess of Wales, so you'll be chatting to him a bit later on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. OK, well, we don't need you then.
No, you don't need me.
Just talk to him.
That's it.
Background, though.
That's OK. Enjoy. So tune in.
We do need Otter Criswick, though, to give us the weather picture and see what it's like, because things have changed a bit of rain about this morning.
It was definitely raining at 4:30, I can tell you that.
Right, definitely. Let's go to Honor.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead with heavy outbreaks of rain in the west, with a Met Office weather warning in force. Elsewhere, a bit brighter, but some showers which could have some hail and thunder. Now, it's going to be quite a wet start across parts of northeast England, parts of East Anglia, also across Wales and parts of the southwest. Some quite heavy downpours at times, and we do have a rain warning issued for parts of Wales and the southwest. A chance we could see some travel disruption and some flooding in these areas. And across central areas, parts of the southeast, some brighter spells, but also some showers with a risk of hail and thunder, and a little bit drier across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, but can't rule out the odd shower or two. Now, to finish off the day, the rain across the west is set to linger, particularly across Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall. Once again, some heavy outbreaks of time at times, particularly across rush hour. So do keep an eye on our website for any warning details. A largely dry end to the day across Northern Ireland, but we're set to see some rain move in here as we head through the overnight period. Quite a wet end to the day across eastern parts of Scotland, but across the northwest, probably seeing the best of the brightness. But here, once again, can't even rule out a risk of a shower too. And as we head through into the overnight period, it's set to remain fairly unsettled. Some heavy and possibly thundery outbreaks of rain. Once again, that rain persisting across parts of Wales and the southwest, and eventually moving into northern England and southern parts of Scotland through the course of the night. But with all the cloud and the rain, that means things aren't set to be too chilly. So it's going to be a fairly mild night for many, perhaps a chance of some rural frost across the very far west of Ireland and northwest Scotland. Wednesday, once again, an unsettled day. Outbreaks of rain slowly shifting their way northwards into Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, still lingering for a time across Wales too. May even bring some snow across the Pennines and across the Scottish uplands. But across the south, a brighter day, but a chance of some showers skirting into the southwest later on into the afternoon, and feeling cooler for all, with highs around 15 degrees Celsius.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Just a quick word about the Trick Awards, again, just to get that through to you, because it really is very, very important to get this and to scan the little code on your screen. And here comes the little code right now.
Yes, well, not me, obviously, nothing to do with me, but Breakfast has reached the long list for Best News Programme, and we need your help. All of the awards are voted by the public at home, so please do scan this QR code on the screen right now, or go to poll-trick.org.uk to vote for us.
And vote for Charlie Peters. That's the point as well. Charlie and his coverage of the rape gangs, the grooming gangs around the country. Great work that he has been doing, and we'd love you to vote for him and have him recognised as best news presenter.
So I think they're separate categories, aren't they? So you could both win.
They are separate.
So definitely worth.
Yeah.
Vote early, vote often, as they say. Well, time for our great
Imagine
British...
winning this.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah. Wait till you see this. Great British giveaway, a very interesting prize. You can have as many getaways as you like in your own 4-berth motorhome worth £67,000.
OK, and you get £5,000 in cash as well to do what you want with it. Could be a good summer. Here are the details.
You could be spending your summer in style on the road in this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. It sleeps 4, comes with integrated kitchen and bathroom spaces, and comfortably has space for all the family. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. It's our biggest prize package ever, and it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Break. We're going to talk about the Education Secretary. She has slammed private schools for crying wolf over tax hikes. Now, whatever she means about that, we'll be speaking to a parent affected by all of this. Stay tuned. Eamonn and Miriam here, GB News Breakfast. Back after this.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Well, the end of February marks the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan, and the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer was quick to wish all Muslims Ramadan Mubarak.
Yes, he was, and the royal family also took to their Twitter feed, and they have millions of followers to mark the occasion, sending their best wishes to Muslims in the UK, Commonwealth and all around the world.
Which is all very nice, and quite right, of course, because there are many, many Muslims who are in the Commonwealth which the royal family heads. However, what's been said for the Christians?
Zippo.
Because there's been a deafening silence from, well, the royal family, politicians and many others as Christians mark the beginning of Lent, despite the fact the King is, of course, head of the Church of England.
Yes, it's all rather disappointing. Shall we get the reaction of the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II, Dr Gavin Ashenden? Thank you very much indeed, Gavin, for coming on. Are Christians being forgotten in this country? I am taken aback by the fact that the royal family would take to their Twitter feed, which is watched by millions of people, to celebrate the holiday of Ramadan, but no mention of Lent, no mention of Shrove Tuesday, no mention of Ash Wednesday, nothing.
Yes, it's all very odd, and it's not easy to understand, because as you quite rightly said, it's the right and courteous thing to do, to wish Muslims well on what is for them a very important feast day. Why would we not want to be courteous and generous and supportive to people quite rightly pursuing their own religious devotions? But it's as well as two-tier policing, we appear to be having two-tier religion in this country, because, as you say, there's complete silence for the Christians, who still make up nearly 50% of the country.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Now, Miriam, we're going to talk about the Education Secretary, that's Bridget Phillipson, and she has criticised private schools for crying wolf. What's this over?
This is over the tax hikes or the decision to put VAT on education for the first time ever, which has obviously increased the private school costs. But lots of parents are obviously very worried about this. I think 77 schools have closed since the implementation of the VAT, but it's particularly affecting parents of children with special needs who can't be catered for in the state sector, and so have taken the often very, very expensive decision to educate their children privately, and now they really can't afford it.
And that's the one thing. I have 4 children, and one of them went to a private school simply because that's what we had to do. We'll not bore you with the details, but there we are. I didn't want to send him to a private school, but we sent him to a private school, and I wouldn't change anything. He had a great education, and most of all, he was happy.
Yeah.
He was very, very happy and contented at school, which is a lovely thing, and it plays on, I think, into your adult life there as well. But let's find out what the situation is of Anna Bolter. Anna is a parent, and we're talking about this. And Anna, we're talking about your child. And who's the child we're talking about?
Well, I have 2, but my youngest one has got ASD. So for her to access state school, it's just not a thing. And when we talk about not accessing state school, I think it's really important that people understand what this means. It can be, for a lot of children, a physical thing. The actual environment of the school itself is too much. It's a sensory overload, even noises, smells, and being in a class of 30-odd children. You know, if you can't cope with 2 people, you will often see a lot of autistic children wearing headphones. And that's to block the world out because they can't let it in. So we're not really talking about choice here. And I think certainly with Bridget Phillipson's latest comments, which are just so contemptuous, you know, she says, we're crying wolf. I mean, I'm crying, don't get me wrong, I'm crying, but it's not wolf. And how can she possibly say that when she's never met us? She doesn't speak to us, she doesn't engage with us, she doesn't come into private schools. So she has
wants your money.
Of course she wants our money, but she wants our money, but is it going into schools, Eamonn? This is the other thing, because we were told that the VAT on education was going to give 6,500 shiny new teachers in state. Well, it hasn't. Where's it gone? You know, this manifesto sounded great, didn't it? It sounded brilliant. But the ultimate truth was, it was a policy that Rachel Reeves had cooked up years and years ago to abolish independent sector.
Yeah, but could your youngster not get that same sensory deprivation, that sensory help at a private school as opposed to a private school?
Well, we don't know. It's the big experiment. She would say no. So she has said she will be homeschooled. She is now 13. So again, change for her is very, very difficult. It's not like saying to another child, you know, we'll go and meet some new friends. We'll go and have a look around the school. For her, that process takes a long, long time. I mean, even moving house is difficult. Changing a bedroom round is difficult. So do I want to experiment? And this is what it comes down to with my daughter's safety, security and educational needs by moving her. The answer is no. You know, it gets to a point, and any parent who's had an ASD diagnosis will have had a safeguarding risk on their diagnosis. It gets to the point where it's safeguarding. We're not just talking about choice, as people like to think. You know, they think, well, you're choosing to put your child there. Well, actually, there's no alternative other than state school, other than homeschool. Do I take her out of the school system and take her away from friends, take her away from learning life skills and being with her peers? Do I put her in a corner of society where she can't be seen? Just be, you know, if we can't afford the fees and we can't go into state, what do we do? You tell me where the choice is, you know, and this is it. To say that we are crying wolf is, it just derides every single thing. It's so contemptuous about parents just doing the best for their children, which she has done for her kids. You know, we saw Keir Starmer. His son wasn't allowed to have his revision interrupted. So he was put in a flat so that he could do that in peace. Yet we aren't allowed the choice to be able to say, the state system, my daughter's telling me the state system won't work. Why do I not respect her enough to say, okay, we're not going to do that then? If you're telling me that it is, and again, the reaction is physical. And for a lot of people that haven't seen an autistic meltdown, you might not understand what it looks like, but it can be a child's immune system, their nervous system going through the roof. They explode. They can scratch their skin off, pull their hair out, cry, and they're trying to regulate. They're trying to soothe themselves. But what's actually happening is
Anna, you argue the case very, very well. We are out of time. We can't argue for any more time with you. But thank you for helping us understand what you're going through, and maybe we can go into it in more depth in some future programme. But for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. One of the things I learned, I was talking there about private school, is that the sort of people who use it, I mean, I thought that when I sent my child to a private school, it would be full of wealthy people. And instead, it was full of people who were just working to make ends meet and working because they believed the system was better for their children, or whether that is right or wrong. But the idea that people are overly wealthy, I think you can hit that on the head, and they work very hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are some people who are just incredibly rich and would send their children to private school, whatever the cost. But there are lots of people who, like you say, are working extra jobs or sacrificed other things. We don't penalise parents who get up at 4 in the morning to take their children to swimming lessons or who, you know, take them all over to football. We don't penalise that sacrifice. So, yeah.
There we go. And if you are heading to school for 9 o'clock or so this morning, you want to know what the traffic's like, here it is.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The A1 in Cambridgeshire is blocked northbound by an accident just after the A43 near Stamford, causing queues. The M2 in Kent is blocked westbound by an accident just after junction 3, the Chatham and Rochester turn, with queues towards there. In Wiltshire, the A303 is closed westbound around the Mere bypass after an accident late last night. Eastbound has reopened. Train services in Devon are suspended between Plymouth and Gunnerslake because of a signalling problem, with taxis replacing the trains, and DFDS sailings between Portsmouth and Jersey are cancelled because of poor weather conditions. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Well, still to come, we've got Paul Coit coming back with all of the sports news. You're watching GB News Breakfast.
You are indeed.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Well, Paul, we plan to get big on Aston Villa and the big uphill task they have got tonight in the Champions League. 2-goal deficit for them.
Yeah, I wonder whether it is over. See, the thing is, Paris Saint-Germain, they won over in Paris, and they won 3-1, and we had Eric Bielderman from Paris on earlier, and he was saying how important that last goal was right at the very end, and what a difference that's going to make, and the fact there's a 2-goal deficit. See, Aston Villa, it's going to be at Villa Park, and with the Champions League night, is it going to affect them? I think it probably will affect Paris Saint-Germain.
I hope so.
I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough.
There's some teams, Sherman. Look, who have they got rid of Messi? Who else did they get rid of?
That's it. And Mbappe's gone as well. Neymar's gone.
And they're better for it.
They are better for it because it's all very well because they've got the owners that have just got so much money, and what they were doing, it was like, we'll have him, we'll have him, we'll have him. It's like the Harlem Globetrotters. That was it. It was fancy football, and they could just buy anybody they wanted. But football, I'm going to try and keep away from any cliches, but I can't help myself. It's a team game.
Yeah.
It's not about individuals. The individuals have got to be able to play together. And since they've gone, the teams seem to have gelled and they're playing so much better. They've still got great players, but not those individuals that are maybe wanting to say, well,
we're
it's
trying
all about
to get an interview with former Villa player Andy Blair from that 1982 squad. We haven't made connection with him yet, so let's go through some other sport. And Eddie Howe, first out. Yeah. He's in hospital.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that he was ill, and we knew something happened. He'd gone to hospital, but it turns out he's got pneumonia, and. He went to hospital, it was late Friday, felt unwell for a number of days, and he's said a huge thank you to everybody connected with Newcastle United, wider football community for your messages and warm wishes. They've meant a lot to me and my family, Howe said in a statement which was issued by Newcastle United yesterday. So we wish him well because he has had such a great year as far as the football's concerned. They've won the Carabao Cup and they're looking to head to Europe and maybe the Champions League.
They also won on Sunday without him.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. It doesn't matter whether you're in football, whether you're in this business. If you take a day off, someone will be very quick to jump into your seat. Yeah. So you've got to be very careful. I also want to mention the snooker as well. Now, with Sheffield, did you go to the Crucible?
I've been a couple of times.
Yeah?
I think the problem is that we went a couple of times in the first round because obviously it gets more and more expensive as it goes on.
I can imagine.
But you never know.
You only went for the cheap seats, Miriam. Is that what it was?
We only went for the cheap seats. But I can't remember his name now, but there was a guy, this was about 15 years ago or more, who was very good but unbelievably boring. Can you remember who that was? I think he was
there have been a lot of
There could be a few. I can think of a few, but I daren't.
And it was like we could. In the first round, they divide the stage in two.
Yes, that's right.
You get two at the same time, and so we could hear all these cheers and whoops of excitement from the other half. And we were just this really. I mean, it's a great privilege to be there, but it was rather dull. But what's amazing in Sheffield is the whole of the town centre gets filled with the news reporters, and it's an exciting atmosphere.
And is it falling to pieces now, the Crucible? Because there's a lot of talk, wasn't there? Barry Hearn was saying that maybe we will move the World Championships away, move it to Saudi Arabia.
Well, I haven't been since. I used to go. I worked for the BBC on it. And it was amazing. So I don't know what life's like outside the Crucible. Are they ever outside the Crucible now? No.
What do you mean?
The game, the tournament?
Oh, no, not the World Championships. It's still, the Crucible still have
hanging
it.
on.
They literally are clinging
I think there was a fire at the Crucible or something at one stage. It wasn't good, but it all happened.
They had Just Up Oil, didn't they, last year? Was it there?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Orange
But I
paint.
should mention the reason that we're talking about the World Championship briefly. World Snooker qualifiers in Sheffield. Jackson Page, 23-year-old Welshman in a qualifier. He became the first player to make a 147, so a 147, which is the ultimate break. But not only did he do it once, he then did it twice.
But
he did it in the same
He
match.
got 147,000 quid for doing it.
That's right.
And then he did it twice, he doesn't get any extra.
No, he gets the one. The thing is, he gets the 147 because he's the first to make two 147s in one tournament, and then he actually managed to.
Okay, well, we've no time for anything else, so we'll just say no. We just think we've no time for anything else, so we'll go to the break and we'll try and speak to Andy Blair some other time. Thank you very
we'll
much.
do that.
Back with the papers right after this.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
If you're hoping to get away for the rest of the Easter holidays, I'm afraid it's rather unsettled across the central Mediterranean. Heavy showers, thunderstorms and also some strong winds. Largely dry across Madeira and the rest of the Canary Islands, though, particularly after all the heavy rain recently. But as we shift our way eastwards, heavy showers affecting much of the central Mediterranean. These could have hail and also some thunder and some strong winds associated with them too. Largely dry across Greece, and it's turning largely dry for all as we head into Saturday, with temperatures widely in the mid to high teens to low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
High street retailers have been unveiling their new collections with the arrival of the warmer weather, with critics warning that British staple M&S faces a stampede due to the popularity of their new ranges. Well, joining us now is fashion and upcycling consultant Tendai Marewa.
This spring we're going a little bit less bold prints, but we're focusing more on textures and embroidery and more brighter colours. The reds are in, the blues. And the minis are back in.
Oh, gosh, we're all going to have to get our pins out, Adam. Oh, dear.
Are we?
So M&S, Marks & Spencer, they seem to be doing very well.
Yeah. I think what they've managed to do is to get the younger audience as well. We see it on TikTok. They've got a trend with their jackets. Everybody's loving it. So the mums and the daughters can all wear the same collection.
Oh, I've seen so many TikToks, you're absolutely right, of younger women going into M&S, trying on the clothes, showing off their M&S haul, is what they call it, and, just pushing the clothes. They like it. They say, it's cool now.
I think that's amazing, because I think, there shouldn't be ageism in shops. We should all go to one shop and come out with whatever we want, and they've managed to do that. And they're bringing out this collection where they've got 10 dresses each month from April to June, and it's affordable to everyone and just perfect for summer.
Yeah, and then I suppose quite good quality. Where else on the high street can people go, if they don't want to spend too much money?
Reach out to your local charity shop and, support them by just buying whatever they have. Revamp it. Add some buttons, some embroidery, and there you go.
What if you're not very good at the old arts and crafts? Like me.
That's where the upcycling consultant is.
The People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, with the time at 8:45, you're very welcome. Thank you for your company today, and thank you for the company of Andy Williams and Lauren McKevitt. And they have got the newspapers in front of them and stories from those papers which they'd like to talk about. And Lauren, one of the things is Rory McIlroy continues to make the papers today. Golf continues to make the papers today, and this Daily Mirror story concentrates on Rory, of course.
Yeah, so I'm a former ladies golf captain from school, so I really, I was. This was a lack of ladies rather than an abundance of talent, it must be said. But I really like the story actually because I'm Irish. My father is from Dublin, and Rory is a real success story of mixed Northern Irish background. He's from both a Protestant and a Catholic background, and grew up in a mixed area. And I think that, you know, he's a big sort of a shining example to Northern Ireland for the last 20 years or so. And yeah, I think you were mentioning earlier in the show that he should get a knighthood. I think that's absolutely correct. I don't care that he's still playing. I think that mid-career honours are good things and will inspire him and inspire people who are coming up behind him too.
And he's really entered the pantheon of great British sports people, hasn't he? I mean, that is an unbelievable
And do you know what, Andy?
achievement.
It's not over.
No.
He's 35 years of age.
Yeah.
You know, he could, until he's about 45, he could be hitting really good stuff.
Well, and I heard a golfing commentator saying that actually this was such a huge monkey on his back that he might now go on and win a glut of majors in a really short period of time because the pressure's off.
Exactly.
You know, he's done it. He's completed the Grand Slam. He's a legend of the sport, so he can crack on for another 10 years.
He's got to be careful though, because apparently I read somewhere that golf is the sport with the highest mortality in the world because it's played by 85-years-olds in the Florida heat, and they all keel over. So
when you're 35, it's probably
technically on a very big technicality. Apparently, golf has the highest mortality of any sport in the world.
The other thing I liked about it, I mean, this headline says emotional Rory makes golf history. He really cared.
Yeah.
You know, it's people in sport these days, people say, oh, well, they're just doing it for the money. And yes, he's rich. You know, he's worth like nearly £1 billion or something crazy.
Is he?
He is incredible.
I tell you what, I would have paid more attention as ladies golf captain if I knew that kind of money was involved.
Oh, yeah.
I really, I was kind of phoning it in, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, golfers do nicely. And it's the sponsorship as well. But no, I mean, that doesn't matter to him. I mean, obviously he's sorted, but it was winning this tournament was all that mattered to him. I think that's really impressive.
Yeah.
Well, what did you play off?
A club. Serious, I was not a good golfer. I am still not a good golfer. I think I got down as far as 27, and it was not a good golfer.
Yeah, that isn't good.
No, it isn't good.
Well done for trying.
Marks for effort. It was genuinely a lack of ladies rather than an abundance of talent. I'm not sugarcoating it.
Talking of ladies, there was what was supposed to be a great feminist event yesterday.
Yes.
6 beautiful, scantily clad, not scantily clad, very tightly clad.
Tightly, everything being held in
by one of the world's richest men.
Absolutely.
Is this a victory for women?
No, this is a victory for science because it's really important that science works out just how far into space we can send breast implants without them exploding. I think this is a real win for international science. In fact,
you do joke, but actually there was discussion in advance about what G-force does to artificial implants.
Well, I mean, they're screening it live.
Artificial implants, have they?
Did you see it? There might have been some who didn't, but I didn't.
Really? Were there? I think it would have been quite some live viewing if someone's lips had exploded live on air. But I'm quite glad they did the science beforehand. But they only stayed up for 10 minutes. And my understanding is that means that Katy Perry's emissions on this flight are larger than the entirety of Taylor Swift's on the Eras tour.
Wow.
Which is wild to me.
We did have an environmentalist on earlier who said that each of those, well, let's call them passengers, they're not really astronauts.
No, there were also crew up there.
Oh, crew, yes, I'm not sure. The emissions are 17,000 tonnes of carbon per passenger, which is the equivalent to turning everything off in your house for 34 years.
I mean, let's be honest about what this was. This was a vanity project by a billionaire.
Rich man sends beautiful women into space.
Exactly.
Well, and Jeff Bezos sent his wife up there with only women so that he couldn't have any more pictures of men staring down her top on national television, which is what happened at the inauguration.
Andy, come on, Andy.
Not going to touch that one.
Celebrity Big Brother has been making headlines. Mickey Rourke has been a problem. Trisha Goddard, the talk show host, how's she been getting into trouble?
So Michael Fabricant, who former Conservative, former colleague of yours, I actually shared a glass of wine with him on the sofa in the green room just before Christmas. Very nice chap, actually.
Yeah, he is.
Very nice chap. Very amusing, eccentric man. And he was giving a sort of a speech where he was making an argument about integration and how, in his view, he's from a Jewish background. He was saying Jewish people integrate better than people from other backgrounds into the UK. And Trisha took exception to this and said he was being Islamophobic. So that caused a big row. Meanwhile, Mickey Rourke is saying all sorts of homophobic things. I think he's been kicked out of the house. So usual chaos from Celebrity Big Brother. But I guess that's why they put these characters in.
What do you think?
I've got nothing. I've never seen it. I've got nothing. I'm really sorry. And I feel I did a lot of the lifting on the space.
Have you ever been asked to do it, Eamonn?
We've got a clip of this, have we?
Here you go. This is your chance.
All right, let's hear Trisha.
Jewish people, when they usually come to this country, believe, do in Rome as the Romans do. Do not come to this country if your aim is to change everybody to your way of thinking. There are other people...
Hang on!
There are... What?
Hang on. Are you slipping into Islamophobia? Because you're going to have trouble.
Who has mentioned Islam?
I'm getting out of this one.
Okay.
It's getting dangerous.
From the words are violent school of thought, yeah.
What's interesting is I think the former Archbishop of York, John Sentamu, has said similar things to this in the past, that his family and other families of refugees would not have come to the United Kingdom just to make it look like where they came from and where they had been expelled from in some cases. And this is not a point that has been failed to be made by people from other communities over the course of the last 40 years or so.
But John Sentamu is not on Celebrity Big Brother, is he?
I would watch that.
Here's a controversial thing. On Netflix, there is, I think it's Netflix, might be on Sky, I don't know. White Lotus, it's called. And I started watching it, 4 series in, and I watched the latest one. It was very interesting, well made and whatever it is. But there's an actress in it who plays a very glamorous girl in this series, and her name is Amy Lou Wood. Now, what is the controversy here, Andy?
So Amy Lou Wood, by her own admission, and she has joked about it, she has quite prominent teeth. So she doesn't have perfect, straight, white teeth. She has quite sort of sticky, outy teeth. And she's talked about it and said it's interesting and amusing how many people in America in particular comment on it, because obviously everyone in America is perfectly. And on Saturday Night Live last week, there was a sketch where they really went in quite hard on this teeth thing, and she's now said, look, I'm all for sort of sending yourself up and taking the mick out of yourself, but this went a bit too far and was a bit mean. And I sort of see her point, actually. I mean, if she's been open about it and laughed at herself, but having them sort of really laying into her is just a bit, I don't know.
That's right, isn't it, Lauren? There is a line between something that's funny and something that's actually cruel.
Gratuitous.
Unless you're a man. If you're a man, no one cares. So I put it to you, they only care because she's a woman, and that's mean. But
I think that's possibly...
I see what you mean.
She's a young woman as well, and I think a lot of, Saturday Night Live has a lot of male sketch writers. I think it's a really male thing to really hone in on women's looks and things, and I think that's what she's commenting on.
Thank you for being here today. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Lauren, we'll have to turn you off. Thank you, Andy. And we're turning on the weather in the European destinations.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead with heavy outbreaks of rain in the west with a Met Office weather warning in force. Elsewhere a bit brighter, but some showers which could have some hail and thunder. Now it's going to be quite a wet start across parts of northeast England, parts of East Anglia, also across Wales and parts of the southwest. Some quite heavy downpours at times, and we do have a rain warning issued for parts of Wales and the southwest. A chance we could see some travel disruption and some flooding in these areas. And across central areas, parts of the southeast, some brighter spells, but also some showers with a risk of hail and thunder, and a little bit drier across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, but can't rule out the odd shower or two. Now, to finish off the day, the rain across the west is set to linger, particularly across Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall. Once again, some heavy outbreaks of time at times, particularly across rush hour, so do keep an eye on our website for any warning details. A largely dry end to the day across Northern Ireland, but we're set to see some rain move in here as we head through the overnight period. Quite a wet end to the day across eastern parts of Scotland, but across the northwest, probably seeing the best of the brightness. But here, once again, can't even rule out a risk of a shower too. And as we head through into the overnight period, it's set to remain fairly unsettled, some heavy and possibly thundery outbreaks of rain. Once again, that rain persisting across parts of Wales and the southwest, and eventually moving into northern England and southern parts of Scotland through the course of the night. But with all the cloud and the rain, that means things aren't set to be too chilly. So it's going to be a fairly mild night for many, perhaps a chance of some rural frost across the very far west of Ireland and northwest Scotland. Wednesday, once again, an unsettled day. Outbreaks of rain slowly shifting their way northwards into Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, still lingering for a time across Wales too. May even bring some snow across the Pennines and across the Scottish uplands. But across the south, a brighter day, but a chance of some showers skirting into the southwest later on into the afternoon, and feeling cooler for all, with highs around 15 degrees Celsius.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The latest GB News Travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The A1 in Cambridgeshire is partly blocked northbound by an accident just after the A43 near Stamford, with queues from the A47 at Wansford. The M2 in Kent is closed westbound from junction 3 to 2 near Chatham and Rochester after an accident, with queues towards there. In Wiltshire, the A303 is closed westbound around the Mere bypass after an accident late last night. Train services in Devon are suspended between Plymouth and Gunnislake because of a signalling problem, and DFDS sailings between Portsmouth and Jersey cancelled because of poor weather conditions. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 9 o'clock on GB News Breakfast, and Ed Miliband has encouraged Chinese investment in key critical infrastructure.
As the government scrambles to save Scunthorpe Steel, a fresh spotlight is cast on Beijing's involvement in the UK economy.
here to very, very clearly say to you that the United Kingdom stands committed to deepen and strengthen our partnership.
But will China now retaliate and threaten British jobs?
Breaking news within the last hour. US Vice President J.D. Vance has said there is a good chance of a trade agreement, and that will be a trade agreement that will be reached between Britain and the US.
Yes, the Vice President says that the President's cultural affinity for the UK leaves us in good stead for a trade agreement, but he blasts Europe for an over-reliance on American security.
And the Birmingham bin crisis could be coming to a street near you. Yes, the Unite union has snubbed Angela Rayner's pay offer as they warn there could be similar bin strikes across the country.
As 97% of striking bin workers reject the latest offer from Birmingham City Council. Unite say that a deal is significantly far away. With bin bags on the street, it looks set to continue for some time.
Chemist shops are closing. 5 were lost a week last year in England as a lack of funding has left them fighting to survive.
In a very spiritual and very intense, emotional reconnection, I suppose, these environments.
The Princess of Wales has celebrated her connection to nature on a trip to the Lake District with the Scouts. She hails the balance and peace of the great outdoors, I should say.
And very shortly, we'll be joined by the Chief Scout, Dwayne Fields, who accompanied the Princess in the Lake District, to hear his views.
Hello there, good morning. A wet day ahead, particularly across parts of England and Wales, and a risk of some heavy showers, which may bring some hail and thunder. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
Whoever you're watching, whoever you're listening, wherever you are, you're very welcome to the programme. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Miriam Cates, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Let's start with that trade deal situation. It's breaking news for us this morning. Vice President of the US, J.D. Vance, he says that a trade deal between the UK and the US is highly likely.
This was from an interview with the online magazine Unheard, and Vance said that the White House is working very hard and suggested that the US-UK trade relationship will be easier to agree to as we have a much more reciprocal relationship. So let's cross live to Adam Cherry, our reporter. Adam, is J.D. Vance on a bit of a mission to improve his ratings in Europe, do you think?
If you read the interview in Unheard today, certainly not. Actually, he's pretty excoriating about Europe. He says certain countries within Europe, Germany in particular, have been relying too much on America for security guarantees, and that the US has subsidised Europe's security, rather, for the entire lifetime of the Vice President, in his own words. So, no, he's not particularly impressed with Europe, although he says that an independent Europe would be good for the US and good for the Europeans as well. So I suppose he does caveat it a little bit, but he's nonetheless a pugilist, and this is how he speaks. In terms of his attitude towards the UK, I think the Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, and indeed the whole cabinet will be pretty happy to hear what he had to say in this interview, saying, as you said, they're working very hard on a trade deal. He thinks it is likely, and he says part of that reason is because the president has such a warm attitude towards the UK, particularly the royal family. Now, we've known this for some time. Trump himself has been very vocal about this. He was vocal in his first term. He's been offered a second state visit in his second term, and Vice President Vance says today the president really loves the United Kingdom. He loved the Queen. He goes on to say there's a real cultural affinity, and of course fundamentally America is an Anglo country, so there is a sort of Brexit dividend here as well when he talks about this reciprocal relationship, saying not only is the UK culturally closer, but also it is now easier to negotiate with them now that they are not part of the European trading bloc.
Adam, thank you very much indeed. Talk about the Princess of Wales now, and she has joined the Chief Scout of the country in a video posted by Kensington Palace on how her spiritual connection with nature gives her peace in what is a very busy world.
Yes, it was filmed near the shores of Lake Windermere with a Scouts group last month, and the video was released overnight.
I find it a very spiritual and very intense, emotional reconnection, I suppose, these environments. Not everyone has that same relationship, perhaps, with nature, but it is so therefore meaningful for me as a place to balance and find a sort of sense of peace and reconnection in what is otherwise a very busy world.
Well, joining us now is the Chief Scout at the Scouting Association, Daubney Fields. Daubney, welcome to the programme. Thank you for joining us. You must be delighted at the partnership with the Princess of Wales, and the video is you were in that creation.
Yeah, so good morning, first of all. Yes, I'm absolutely delighted with it. The Princess of Wales has been one of our joint presidents for some time now, and hopefully that will continue. There's no reason to think it won't. And I am delighted. Her platform allows for her to really basically become a megaphone for all the great things we do in scouting. And there's no denying it. Every single week, we've got 500,000 young people and adult volunteers meeting, and they are learning, building friendships, learning those really important skills for life, having fun, like I said, making friendships. And they're doing all of this voluntarily. And just like I am, so is the Princess of Wales. She's a volunteer just like the rest of us.
Tell us about more of those things that the scouting groups do, that she's responsible for spreading. And this whole thing, Daubney, she talks about being at peace with nature and the environment around her. How important is that? How important is it to get that message home? And how important is it for more young people to be able to experience that?
Well, for example, what you've mentioned there, you know, the being at one with nature, being at peace in nature, I think it's really important for young people to spend time outdoors. We recognize from all the reports, and you yourself, Eamonn, spoken about it, mental health issues that we have in society nowadays. Now, this isn't the silver bullet, but I think it is part of the solution. The more young people we can get to spend time in our natural spaces, I think the better we'll be, generally speaking, when we're talking about well-being. Now, in regards to what young people do in our scout groups, it could range from cooking to map reading to model making. Whatever skills the volunteer brings are the skills that we utilize in our groups, and they learn along the way as well. Yeah. And just on that point, I want to just say, the one thing that we need more of in Scouts are more volunteers. Currently, as I sit here, there are 105 or so thousand young people waiting to join a group. And the only barrier to them joining that group and benefiting just like the other 500,000 is the fact that we just don't have enough volunteers to keep up with demand. So
why do you not have more volunteers? I mean, if I wasn't in this wheelchair, mate, I'd be there leading the charge for you. But who are you looking for? What age would they have to be? And why are they not there?
Eamonn, I'm glad you said if you weren't in that wheelchair. The wheelchair is not a barrier to becoming one of our wonderful volunteers. Now, the reason we don't have enough is we just can't keep up with demand. There are so many families, parents, young people themselves looking at Scouts and seeing the great things that we do, seeing how we impact communities, how we change lives for the better, how we instill skills and values and self-confidence in so many young people, and they want to be a part of it. We just don't have enough volunteers. So if you are able and if you've got a few hours that you can spare, please consider joining us, Eamonn, and being one of our volunteers. Our young people could learn so much from you and all the other, anyone listening. If you're an adult and if you're, you know, if you want to be part of a really wonderful movement, you want to volunteer, you've got something to teach and you're willing to learn as well, consider joining up as one of our volunteers.
Good. It sounds good. I just don't think I would suit the shorts at my age, but that's it. But there's Daubney.
We look great in the necker.
Well, there's Daubney Fields. He's the chief scout man. He is, and Daubney, you're the man with the right name for what we're talking about today. Fields, nature, become one with it. Great talking to you, my friend. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, joining us in the studio to react to that, we've got our correspondent, Cameron Walker. Obviously, Princess Kate has been a partner with the Scouts for a long time. Do you think this is a new boost to get volunteers, to reset the Scouts? What's behind this?
Well, yeah, she's been a joint president since 2020, and I think it was very interesting what Daubney said there, actually, about the Princess being a megaphone for great things we do with Scouting. It's the kind of public image that a member of the royal family, particularly the Princess of Wales, can give, and gives organisations such as Scouts a megaphone megaphone to, tell us that they don't have enough volunteers and appeal to the public, really, that more is needed to get kids away from their mobile devices and out in nature. And we just see pictures on our screen of Prince George volunteering at a scout group. This was back in May 2023 during the coronation, where the Prince and Princess of Wales brought their 3 children to a local scout hut in, I think it was near Slough, and they were busy renovating a scout hut. And Prince Louis nearly tipped over a digger with Prince William, and so that was funny. Yeah.
Well, they are much better at taking risks, I think, the Scouts, than schools are. They do slightly more adventurous activities. Well, thank you so much, Cameron. That's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. But it is wonderful when the royal family put their name to things like this.
Yeah, endorse those things. But, just bear that in mind. If you can help them out, if you can become a leader in the pack, and you got some spare time, there you are. Get in touch with them. Trick Awards, just to say to you, if you would vote for us, get us on the shortlist, we would appreciate it. You just scan that QR code on the screen to register your vote. Not just us as a breakfast programme, but also Charlie Peters nominated for the Best News Presenter category, and that's for his work in uncovering and following and reporting on those grooming gangs, those rapists all around the country. That is excellent work that he does. Please give him the recognition. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, now it's time for our Great British Giveaway, our biggest prize to date, your chance to enjoy lots of getaways in a camper van. Know what they're called now? Motorhome, sorry, not a camper van. Worth over £67,000 and £5,000 in cash. This is what you need to do.
You could be spending your summer in style, on the road in this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. It sleeps 4, comes with integrated kitchen and bathroom spaces, and comfortably has space for all the family. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. It's our biggest prize package ever, and it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, still to come, could the Birmingham bin strike be coming to a street near you? We'll be discussing that next. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Miriam.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
This is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
The Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Let's cross to our reporter, Jack Carson. We're talking about the Birmingham bin strike, Jack. Fears that it could escalate around the country.
Well, that's the situation. Unite, a source has been reported as saying this morning, reported in the papers around the issue that if certain kind of pay cuts, as we've been seeing, proposed pay cuts here in Birmingham, were to happen around the country, then strike action would certainly not be out of the question for the unions involved there. Peterborough and Sheffield touted as two places where the G&B unions say strike action is not out of the possibility. But of course, Unite members, 60% of them of the workers affected by this. By the Unite members, they say yesterday 97% of them voting against the pay offer put to them by Birmingham City Council. We understand that pay package included compensation, mainly averaging between £7,000 and up to £16,000 for those longer serving members of staff. But because that is simply compensation and not reassurances further into the long term around pay and ensuring that these people don't, what Unite say would amount to an £8,000 pay cut, that is essentially why they rejected that offer. And so with that offer rejected, these strikes look set to continue. Unite saying they still feel they are still significantly far away from the council when it's coming to a deal to end this dispute.
Thanks, Jack.
Jack Carson there in Birmingham. Well, we're going to cross live now to Westminster to speak to Minister of State for Industry, Sarah Jones. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And let's just start with that Birmingham bin strike. Obviously, it's becoming a public health risk, an enormous nuisance to local people. How does this end?
Well, look, people have enough problems that they have to deal with without having to worry about where their bins are being collected. So this needs to end. And our message to Unite is really clear. Call off the strike, accept the deal that's on the table. It's a good deal. And that's what we ultimately believe needs to happen. Now, of course, the government's doing what it can. We have sent some army logistics people in to help with the navigation of this issue. There are councils from neighbouring areas who are supporting. There's some private sector involvement as well. But fundamentally, we want Unite to call off this strike.
Sarah, I just want to know what you mean by a good deal. I may be wrong in this, but I'm hearing that they have to accept up to £8,000 less than they were working on before. Could you just explain to me why then that would be deemed to be a good deal?
Well, look, I won't get into the weeds of it. As you would appreciate, my focus for the last period of time has been on steel as the Minister for Industry. But my colleagues are working really hard on resolving this situation and are clear that they think this is a good deal. Now, of course, we work with trade unions all the time. I've been working with Unite and G&B and Community Union on steel, and they've been absolutely brilliant in Scunthorpe, making sure we keep the show on the road. So very important relationships. But in this case, it's unacceptable that people are having to suffer in the way that they are. We've all seen the rubbish piling up. It's awful. And the strike needs to be suspended and they need to come to a deal.
Moving on to steel then, Sarah. So obviously we had this emergency sitting of the House of Commons on Saturday, and we're looking at potential nationalisation of British Steel. But it seems very clear now that the Chinese owners never really had any intention of making this profitable. Actually, they may have had quite nefarious intentions. Do you think it's time now for the government to wake up to Chinese intentions and actually look at removing Chinese from our critical infrastructure?
Well, I've been involved in negotiations with the Chinese government, led by Johnny Reynolds, the business secretary, for months over British Steel. We were operating in good faith. We believe them to be operating in good faith. What's happened over recent times is that relationship changed when they refused to supply the raw materials that we absolutely needed to keep those blast furnaces going. And that's why government has stepped in. Now, I would say two things on China. The first is that they are the second largest economy in the world. They are our fourth largest trading partner, and it is a reality that hundreds of thousands of jobs in this country rely on that trade. And that's important, and we need to be pragmatic in how we approach it. And the second thing, just forgive me, I would say, because it's important on China, is, of course, the world has changed. We need to be more secure. We know we need to spend more on defence. We know we need to make sure our security is paramount. And so for every case, we will make sure there are stringent tests to make sure we are acting in the national interest at all times, as well as, of course, having a pragmatic relationship when it comes to trade.
Isn't it the case, though, that this is exactly the intention of the Chinese, to make us, and indeed other Western countries, reliant on their industry, on their exports, so that we essentially lose power and lose security on the world stage? And this is no criticism of the Labour government. The previous Conservative government was just as naive to Chinese intentions. Isn't it now clear to everybody that we should be disentangling ourselves from China as much as possible? Indeed, that is what the US is trying to do with their tariffs.
I don't think anyone is naive about the realities that we face, but equally, I don't think anyone is naive about the number of jobs that rely on that open trade. So we need to take this pragmatically. We need to trade where it's right to do so. We need to challenge where it's right to do so, and we need to make sure we are secure. And that is the route that we are taking. This is a pragmatic, sensible route, dealing with the reality of the world as we find it, but also understanding the world is changing and we need to be more secure. So that dual approach of ensuring security and trade is the way that we are as a government approaching this.
And our relationship with the USA may well be changing as well. It will be changing. JD Vance, Vice President, he's made soundings this morning, which we're hearing, saying that the chances of a deal, agreeable deal to both America and Britain, is definitely on the cards.
Well, of course, we welcome the words from the Vice President. Now, the reality is that our officials and Johnny Reynolds, the Secretary of State, and others are having good conversations with our US counterparts on a trade deal. I can't tell you when that's going to be secured or what it will look like, but I can tell you that everybody is working very hard to try and make sure we have a good trade deal. We do not believe tariffs are the answer. 25% tariffs on our steel industry does not help America, and the 25% tariffs on the automotive industry equally we think is not helpful, not right, and we want to negotiate that down. And the 10% tariffs, of course, that we've got on other industry. We want to make sure we have a good deal for British workers, for British people, and that's what we're trying to secure.
Mr. Minister, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you.
Well, Britain's Newsroom is coming up at 9:30. We've got Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner here in the studio to tell us what's coming up on today's show.
Good morning. I've just seen us in the monitor. Do you think our chairs are right? What are you doing down there?
It's designed to give me an inferiority complex.
Do you know, well, mine's not working, I'm afraid. I can't get down. But we will be on a similar level, at least physically, if not intellectually, by the time we go on air at 9:30.
Sabotage my chair. Not just as Chinese sabotaging British Steel, you know.
How do you feel about big fat ballerinas? on stage. Is that a good idea or not?
No.
Because the new head of the artistic director at the Royal Ballet is now saying that we should be having larger ballerinas so that people can relate to them, and also they said there's no reason why we can't have male and male dancers, female with female.
Oh, for heaven's
an
sake.
Opportunity to create new audiences. Nobody's bothered about
An opportunity to lose an audience for this.
Not conserving anything, are they?
Not good for the male dancers' back.
No,
trying to
that's
lift
also
up.
true.
Right, we've got to fix our chairs. We will be back with you after the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead with heavy outbreaks of rain in the west, with a Met Office weather warning in force. Wales and parts of the southwest, some quite heavy downpours at times, and we do have a rain warning issued for parts of Wales and the southwest. A chance we could see some travel disruption and some flooding in these areas. And across central areas, parts of the southeast, some brighter spells, but also some showers with a risk of hail and thunder, and a little bit drier across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, but can't rule out the odd shower or two. Now, to finish off the day, the rain across the west is set to linger, particularly across Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall. Once again, some heavy outbreaks of time at times, particularly across rush hour. So do keep an eye on our website for any warning details. A largely dry end to the day across Northern Ireland, but we're set to see some rain move in here as we head through the overnight period. Quite a wet end to the day across eastern parts of Scotland, but across the northwest, probably seeing the best of the brightness. But here, once again, can't even rule out a risk of a shower too. And as we head through into the overnight period, it's set to remain fairly unsettled, some heavy and possibly thundery outbreaks of rain. Once again, that rain persisting across parts of Wales and the southwest, and eventually moving into northern England and southern parts of Scotland through the course of the night. But with all the cloud and the rain, that means things aren't set to be too chilly. So it's going to be a fairly mild night for many, perhaps a chance of some rural frost across the very far west of Ireland and northwest Scotland. Wednesday, once again, an unsettled day. Outbreaks of rain slowly shifting their way northwards into Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, still lingering for a time across Wales too. May even bring some snow across the Pennines and across the Scottish uplands. But across this south, a brighter day, but a chance of some showers skirting into the southwest later on into the afternoon, and feeling cooler for all, with highs around 15 degrees Celsius.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M8 in Glasgow, there's a lane closed westbound where someone's broken down between junctions 16 and 18 from Craighall to Charing Cross, causing long delays. The A1 in Cambridge is partly blocked northbound by an accident just after the A43 near Stamford, causing delays. In Kent, the A227 is blocked by an accident off the M20 near Brands Hatch. In Wiltshire, the A303 is closed westbound around the Mere bypass after an accident late last night. DFDS sailings between Portsmouth and Jersey are suspended because of poor weather conditions, and train services in Devon are suspended between Plymouth and Gunnerslake because of a signalling problem. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News